This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Tax Implications is coming fast down the center of the track, and Tax Implications and Flappy and Fred have hit the lead. Mama Jude absolutely flying, but Tax Implications gets there and wins the Eatontown. With a furlong to go, Javier Castellano asking Tuscan Sky to finish, and he finishes full of run. Tuscan Sky in the Spendthrift Farm colors, romping home to win the Pegasus, presented by Naira Bets.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Shoulder to shoulder here with a final furlong left to go, and now Hot Rod Charlie lets it out. Mind Control will not give in. Mind Control comes back. Hot Rod Charlie, Mind Control, head and head, nose and nose, Mind Control, Hot Rod Charlie, photo finish. Photo finish in the Salvatore Mile.
And Jaywalk is still running a good race. Fashion Faux Pas tried to make that run, but couldn't go by her far back to Avelina. And Jaywalk, she is back, it appears. Jaywalk is drawing away down the lane. Jaywalk returns to her 2-year-old form, and an impressive win in the Delaware Oaks, wins it by 7, well in hand.
Now, here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, welcoming you to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, and as always, it is brought to you by our friends at TwinSpires and right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mid-June, the road to the Kentucky Derby is finished. The Triple Crown is finished. And now we start looking toward the road to the Breeders' Cup. Happy to have you with me right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Yeah, the road to the Breeders' Cup. Which division has got your attention right now? Which division is the most compelling in our sport as we sit here on June 14th? 138 days, 15 hours, 57 minutes, and 40 seconds away from the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, October 31st and November 1st. Never too early to start that countdown, right? That 138 days is going to fly by, trust me. There are races taking place today at Monmouth Park, at Delaware, and even at Churchill Downs, where you don't have graded stakes action, but you have the return of Champion Immersive in the Monomoy Girl. Those races, well, maybe they're not on most people's radar as being part of a Super Saturday type of program like we saw at the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga last weekend. Those are races that are going to have an impact on multiple Breeders' Cup divisions as we make our way down the road to Del Mar. So start paying attention now. If you haven't been, these divisions, there are so many divisions right now that are very interesting to me. The 3-year-old male division, certainly, with what we're seeing with the rivalry between Sovereignty and Journalism, and now Baeza showing up every single time they lead him over, but he's proven he's not quite on par with the top 2 yet. And if we're going to be honest, we've seen that nobody is on par with Sovereignty. As good as Journalism is, and as good as he was in the Preakness win, he hasn't gotten by Sovereignty yet. So Sovereignty is the leader in the clubhouse there. But the rivalry that we could be seeing here, this developing rivalry between the two, to me is extremely interesting. And I think it's going to be fun to watch how this unfolds throughout the rest of the year. I'm sure that both horses will point for the Travers Stakes back at Saratoga. Whether they meet before that in a race like the Haskell or Jim Dandy, I don't know if that's likely, but it would certainly be fun to see. I think the more times we can see Sovereignty Journalism hook up with each other this year, the better it's going to be for racing and for all of us as racing fans. But what about the 3-year-old filly division? I mentioned Immersive coming back later today. I don't think Immersive is a lock to win that race. She's 4-5 on the morning line. That's the Monomoy Girl Stakes at Churchill Downs. And in case you're wondering, that's race number 5. It's early in the program, 2:45 Eastern. Immersive, if you remember her, she came into this season after being voted juvenile filly champion last year. Perfect campaign, 4 for 4 as a 2-year-old. Wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, dominates that race, wins by 4.5 lengths, earns the title, and then has to go to the sidelines. She was Brad Cox's top 3-year-old filly. But when she ends up getting injured, enter Good Cheer. And Good Cheer turns out to be the real deal right up until the Acorn last weekend when she suffered her first defeat. She is now 7 for 8 lifetime, 3 for 4 this year. I mentioned this last week on the program that I think you can blame the racetrack on that poor performance by Good Cheer. And you can say, wait a minute now, Baron. Good horses run on anything. Yeah, they do. But good horses also get beat once in a while. Good teams get upset once in a while. It wasn't Good Cheer's day. The racetrack was funky. She never looked comfortable getting over that track in the Acorn. But now, you look at the return of Immersive, and you look at Lucara, the horse that beat Good Cheer in the Acorn. I think she's legit. So when you're talking about compelling divisions, this 3-year-old filly division is really, really interesting. And then, if you want to take it a step further, how about the older fillies and mares? We saw Darth Vader with that big win. You're going to hear from her jockey, John Velazquez, coming up in the second hour of the show. Johnny took time yesterday to sit down with me for an extended conversation. And we're going to play it, the entire thing. It's about 25 minutes long. I think you're going to love it. John Velazquez walked through what was a magical weekend for him last weekend. Really a magical week. He won 6 stakes races at the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. 3 of those were grade 1s, and he threw in a grade 3. How about that? 53 years young, and he's still taking it to the young kids out there. Good for him. He talks about that. He talks about his preparation, what he does to keep himself in the kind of shape that allows him to compete with younger athletes, like the Ortiz brothers, for example. And not just compete, to beat those guys the way he did last weekend. And then he also wins the Win and You're In Jaipur for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint Division, that going to AG Bullet. That was a pickup mount for Johnny. Pretty good one there. And it does beg the question, is John Velazquez the greatest jockey of all time, the GOAT? I know some of you are saying, wait a minute, that's blasphemy. No way. We had Shoemaker and Pinkai and McCarran and De La Houssaye. And I mean, if you can go on and on and on with the list of great jockeys, right? Mike Smith. Mike Smith's still riding. Is he the greatest jockey of all time? But I think when you look at what John Velazquez has done throughout his entire career, and what he's still continuing to do, he's in the conversation. It's a very difficult question to answer. It's like comparing quarterbacks, right? But I do think that comparing jockeys and making that, trying to answer that question of who's the greatest jockey of all time is easier than comparing quarterbacks or pitchers, for example, because of the way that Major League Baseball and professional football, because of the way that those sports have evolved and changed over the years. The NFL is completely different now than it was when Joe Namath was playing, when Fran Tarkenton was playing. Johnny Unitas, completely different game now. So I think that becomes a much more difficult comparison than jockeys. I mean, horse racing is horse racing, right? I understand some of the rules have changed, and don't even get me started on the 6-strike rule and the fine for Kendrick Carmouche. I told you when Junior Alvarado was facing his fine after the Kentucky Derby, it's absolutely ridiculous. But the game itself is pretty much the same. And riding a racehorse is still riding a racehorse, just like it was back when Bill Shoemaker was doing it. So I think it is a little easier, but there are so many great riders we've seen over the years. That's what makes it so difficult. John Velazquez is there. He's one of the greatest jockeys of all time. But so is Lafitte. How about Russell Bays? He's won more races than anybody. How do you view Russell Bays? I mean, we can go on and on and on, right? Again, Mike Smith, people like that, Chris McCarron. Pat Day, my goodness. Jerry Bailey. The list goes on and on and on. But back to the division thing for a minute here. I think if you want to take this a step further, you take a look at these 3-year-old fillies and how good they certainly appear to be. They're going to get their chance, just like Sovereignty and Journalism, to start facing their older rivals later in the summer and into the fall. And that's where things are really going to get fun. How about this distaff division? Torpedo Anna, I know she suffered that defeat. She's looking to get back on track. You have to believe that she's going to. She's too good. That was not the real Torpedo Anna that we saw in her last effort. She is still at the top of the list. She's still the leader in that division. But now it becomes fun. Can horses like Good Cheer and Immersive and Lacara, all of these 3-year-old filly stars, can they take that next step? And when Dale and Tim join me, coming up at 10:30 Eastern on I Ask They Answer, one of the things I'm going to ask them is about all of the upsets that we saw throughout the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. Saratoga living up to its name, right? Its moniker of the graveyard of favorites. We saw a lot of upsets, including the aforementioned Good Cheer. But there were plenty of others. It wasn't just Good Cheer. How about Fierceness? How about White Barrio? What was that? Maybe the track. Maybe the 1 mile distance just wasn't the White Barrio we've gotten used to seeing. How about Think Big? Think Big was the favorite in the Jaipur. It wasn't like that was a massive upset. I mean, AG Bullet's really good. And she was expected to be one of the contenders in there. Spirit of St. Louis didn't really fire his best shot. So all of those horses going down in defeat. And when Dale and Tim join me, I'm going to ask them which was most surprising and which of those upsets do we just draw a line through? Like I'm going to do a Good Cheer, say, okay, it must have been the racetrack. That's not the real Good Cheer. Which ones do we draw a line through, and which of those efforts is cause for concern? I think you have to be a little concerned if you're in the Fierceness camp right now. You remember last year the conversation surrounding Fierceness was one good race, one subpar race. One good race, one subpar. You run second in the Met Mile. You can't really say that was subpar. But I did expect Fierceness to be able to win that race. I actually thought White Barrio was the horse to beat going into it, but White Barrio didn't fire. That left it open for Fierceness. So I think you have to be a little concerned there. I think you have to be a little concerned if you're the connections of White Barrio, but he'll stretch back out. And I think he's better at longer distances. And again, Good Cheer, I don't think you have to worry about her at all. I think she's going to be fine. And this is no gimme today for Immersive either when she comes back at Churchill Downs. I think Anna's Promise, I think Take Charge Milady, both very worthy adversaries for Immersive this afternoon. That should be fun to watch. So yeah, as we edge down this road to the Breeders' Cup, and let's face it, we're already on that road. I think you're going to see a lot of really cool storylines. And I'm going to talk about several of them coming up here today, at least in terms of the races we're going to see later this afternoon. Brian Skirka is going to join me in just a few minutes from Monmouth Park. We're going to talk about their big day. Darin Zoccali from TwinSpires will be with me at 8:35 Eastern. TwinSpires announcing a new contest platform that's going to be tied to Royal Ascot, which begins on Tuesday. it's a really cool concept. I really like it. So Darin's going to be here to fill you in on some of those contests and what you can look forward to at TwinSpires. Eric Hamelback is the CEO of the National HBPA. He joins me for this week's Kentucky Bred Conversation, 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll look ahead to the Claiming Crown and the Claiming Crown Preview Day coming up at Colonial Downs in August. He'll tell you all about that. And then the Hall of Famer John Velazquez will go down the road to the Breeders' Cup. That interview going to be brought to you in 2 parts, starting at 9:20 Eastern. Do not miss it. Make sure you're here for that conversation with Johnny. I think you're really going to like it. The TwinSpires Triple Play kicks off hour number 3. Kevin Kilroy will be here with 3 races you can watch later today. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale and Tim. Time to check in now with Lee Delapina for this week's Impossible Trivia question. Lee, what do you got?
Okay, thanks, Mike. Now, later in the show, Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History looks back at the career of Dust Commander, who won the 1970 Kentucky Derby. But that running of the race was also notable for being part of American pop culture history, as it was the setting for an article titled, "The Kentucky Derby is Decadent and Depraved." Who wrote that article? No Googling. We'll give out the answer at the end of the show.
All right, there you have it. The answer coming your way, 10:55 Eastern. Poll question, what is the most compelling division in racing right now? I just walked through a couple. I want to hear your thoughts. You can go to @HRRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to let me know. And if you don't do social media, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. What is the most compelling division in racing right now? Is it the older male division? Is it the 3-year-old male division? The distaff division, or is it the 3-year-old fillies? Those are your 4 choices, and if you do think it's somebody else or a different division, go ahead and comment and let us know. What is the most compelling division in racing right now? Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Brian Skirka coming your way next, live from Monmouth Park. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
Will you accept the Breeders' Cup Challenge? The chance to compete against the best in the world? The chance to race for a piece of over $34 million in purses and awards? The chance to be a champion. Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race gives you the chance to do just that, with an invitation to horse racing's biggest event of the year, the Breeders' Cup World Championships in Del Mar, where finish lines become the start of a legacy and starting gates shine on the world stage. Win a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race and earn an automatic starting position in a Breeders' Cup race. Entry fees paid by the Breeders' Cup, a Nominator Award of $10,000, travel awards, and so much more. Here, winning a Challenge Series race is just the beginning. View the schedule of Challenge Series races happening around the world and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Verrazano has taken the lead after 3 quarters and won 12-2. And Power Broker has moved into second. Oxbow has given way to third at the rail. Vijack is fourth, and they're into the stretch. And it's Verrazano coming to the 8th pole with a 3-length lead. Power Broker is second. Oxbow pick at the litter, then Micromanage, but Verrazano is pulling away. And Verrazano Verrazano and John Velazquez have blown away their competition. They romp on the Haskell. Power Broker was second. It's very close for third. Oxbow or Micromanage.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Larry Colmus with the call of the 2013 Haskell, won by Verrazano. Just dominated that race. The Haskell coming up on July 19th. Today is Haskell Preview Day at Monmouth. We'll get a look at some of the potential contenders leading up to this year's Haskell in the Pegasus Stakes. The Pegasus is a race that has been dominated by Todd Pletcher over the years. He's won more runnings of that race than any other trainer. Of course, he trained Verrazano in that Haskell win in 2013. But he's won this particular prep race 6 times, and he'll look to make it number 7 later today. Brian Skirka joins me now to talk about the big day, looking ahead to the Haskell on July 19th. Brian, good morning, my friend. No, we'll get to Brian here in just a second. Brian, are you there?
I am. How are you, Mike?
There you go. Brian, I'm great, man. How you doing?
Everything is spectacular. Looking forward to the big day.
Yeah, it should be an outstanding day of racing. I was just talking about the way that Todd Pletcher has dominated the Pegasus Stakes with more wins than any other trainer. He'll try to make it number 7 later today.
Yep, he's got one in here. Valentinian ships in from Saratoga here. So this will be his 4th lifetime start. The breeding, Immaculate, Into Mischief, Rachel's Valentina. So no wonder this one costs $1.5 million. But he's got another big-name trainer to deal with in Chad Brown, who has a 5 morning line favorite in Garamond.
Yeah, Garamond for Juddmonte looks like he could be a handful. He's the son of Uncle Mo and a horse that has all kinds of talent. He's only raced 3 times. He's won 2 of those 3, but he certainly looks the part, doesn't he?
Yeah, I like his versatility. He won from just off the pace first time out, and then he ran 3rd in his second start in the Grade 3 Gotham, closing from a little further back. And then last time he ran in that 3-horse race against Cornucopian, it was like 1 to 1,000,000. And they sent him to the lead, I guess, to try to get maybe a tactical advantage on Cornucopian. He just, drew off and won by 3. So I like horses that have versatility. They don't have to run one exact way. So if plan A, doesn't materialize for whatever reason, they do have a plan B to fall back onto. But he's improved his buyers pretty significantly in every single race Garamond has. And Chad Brown, I was reading in the lead-ups to this race, mentioned him as kind of a Haskell-type horse. So if a trainer like Chad Brown kind of identifies a horse as, a quote-unquote Haskell horse, I feel like that's a pretty good sign, and his PP's back up the talk.
How about the horse that won the local prep race for this particular race this afternoon? That's the Long Branch on May 10th. That's Kentucky Outlaw. What do you know about Kentucky Outlaw?
So I think what I know, and don't take it for gospel because I certainly don't work in the racing office, but I think what I know is he might be running in Delaware today. He's cross-bannered in the Delaware Derby or whatever that race is called. He certainly was game to hold on in the Long Branch, if he does run here. Certainly a contender. He's 3 for 4. His only race that he didn't win was the Federico Tessio 2 back when he had plenty of traffic in that race. But when he's had clearly run races, he can sit pretty close to the pace too and finish. So I would look at him, but keep an eye on the scratches to see if he's participating here or at Delaware today.
If there is an upsetter, Brian, to a horse like Garamond or Valentinian, where are we looking there?
I think we might look at Bracket Buster, the 5. His last race was not very good at all. That was in the slop at Churchill. But if you go 2 races ago, he was second in the Lexington at Keeneland to Gosger, who, of course, ran second in the Preakness. So Bracket Buster, a little hit and miss. When he runs well, he runs well. When he doesn't run well, he really doesn't run well. But he should be pretty close to the pace today. And again, if he can run anything back to that race 2 races ago in the Lexington where he was second to Gosger, he beat Prater, who was a pretty highly regarded, I think he was the favorite in that race, a Chad Brown horse. So if he can run back to that, that might put him in with a shot here.
That's the first of 4 stakes races slated at Monmouth Park this afternoon, 3:53 Eastern. The Pegasus goes as race number 8. What can folks expect in terms of, are there special wagers taking place, special promotions later today, Brian? What can they expect if they're showing up at Monmouth?
We do. So that eighth race we just talked about is the start of the 50-cent late pick 5. It's actually all stakes. So we originally planned to have 4 stakes races today. One of the Lady Secret, which is our last race on the card today, didn't fill last week. So we actually brought that back today. So we actually have 5 stakes races today on Haskell Preview Day, and they make up the last 5 races of the card. So it's an all-stakes late pick 5, which is very exciting. We love having all those stakes races. So that's from a wagering standpoint. That's what you're looking at. We have 12 races on the card today, really full field throughout. Even some of the earlier racers, like the Claimers on turf, they have 12, 13, 14 horse fields. The rails are all the way down on the turf today, so we can have big fields on the turf. There's a middle pick 5, which we instituted this year for the first time. I think that starts, as I flip through the pages, I think that might start in race 4. Which it does. So we have a middle pick 5 that starts on race 4. Races 4 through 8 make up that middle pick 5, which is a new wager for us this year. And then if you happen to be on site, anyone listening close by, we also have a hoodie giveaway today. So the first 6,000 paid fans get a Monmouth Park long sleeve hoodie if you're in the area. But if you're not in the area, either send a friend to pick up your hoodie and play the all stakes late pick 5.
Fans are not going to need to wear those hoodies this afternoon, are they?
I hope not. It's actually it's a little chilly. The summer at the Jersey Shore, summer is a loose term because other than maybe 2 days ago when it was like 90 degrees, it's been in the 60s more than it has been in the 80s. And today and tomorrow are a little bit of the same. I think the high is like 68 degrees. So you might actually need a lightweight hoodie. But so far, no rain here today. There's a little bit of rain in the forecast for later today, but we've avoided it so far. So we're hopeful for a cool, everyone loves to go to the beach, but cool and kind of overcast is perfect for us here at the races. So we'll take it.
Talking with Monmouth Park marketing manager Brian Skirka here on HRRN. Let's talk about the race following the Pegasus, the second of those 5 consecutive stakes races. That is the 9th race, the Monmouth Stakes, purse of $150K. This one, 1 1/8 on the turf. Always a really good race.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite races. We instituted this, I want to say, probably right around the time of that Verrazano stretch call that you called, back when Big Brown won the Haskell, and then he wanted a turf race after the Haskell. So that was the year that we pulled the old Monmouth Stakes out of the hat. But it always gets a good field. This year is no less. Chad Brown, not surprisingly, has another very prominent horse here in redistricting, who's 7-5 on the morning line. He comes out of the Turf Classic, the Grade 1 at Churchill. He looks to have a class edge on this field. I mean, he's been running in graded stakes races pretty much predominantly for the last couple of years for Chad Brown. Again, he's 7-5 on the morning line. He looks, certainly to be a handful in here, running against horses that maybe haven't been running against graded stakes competition. But then you kind of look, and he hasn't won a race in 2 years. I bet him plenty of times. I think the talent is certainly there. Again, he's running in Grade 2, Grade 1 competition, but he hasn't won a race in 2 years. So he's not. The Chad Brown horse in the first leg and the Pegasus might be a horse that I'll really lean on and potentially single. But redistricting, he's on every ticket. He's certainly a really good horse. I'm not sure that I want to live and die with just him for a horse that hasn't won in a while.
Following the Monmouth Stakes are a pair of graded stakes events, both of those Grade 3s. You have the Salvatore Mile, then the Eatontown. Tell me about those 2 races and some of the storylines there.
Yep, so the Salvatore Mile, another big name trainer, ships in a very, successful and well-resumed horse in the 9. So we're talking about race 10 now, Salvatore Mile. The 9, Bishop's Bay, trained by Brad Cox. He won the Grade 3 Westchester last time at Belmont at Aqueduct. He's never been worse than second in his career. 9 starts, 6 wins, 3 seconds. Flavian Pratt, who's in town to ride a lot of the Chad Brown horses, jumps aboard this one for Bishop's Bay. He's been aboard him the last 3 times, all wins. This horse looks extremely tough in here. Todd Pletcher has Tuscan Sky in the Salvatore Mile. He actually won the Pegasus last year as a 3-year-old extremely impressively. I thought he was actually going to be turn into something, pretty good after that Pegasus win. That was a very impressive victory that day. Then he didn't run very well in the Haskell, and he hasn't won since, and he's been, very, very inconsistent. I think he's one of the workmates to one of Todd's big horses. in the morning, so he's keeping good company in the mornings. He just hasn't been able to put it together really in the afternoon. So I'm kind of against Tuscan Sky and the Salvatore Mile, but that horse on the outside, as I said, Bishop's Bay, looks pretty tough in there. Unfortunately, not much of a price, but he looks like a horse that you can really sink your teeth in. And then the Eatontown, race 11, the other grade 3, as you said, this is one of the better races of the day, I think. It's only a 7-horse field, but there's a lot of them who can win in here. The one, Maggie Go, is Chad Brown's horse in here, first time in the U.S., coming from Argentina. He's a Group 2 and Grade 1 placed horse, filly coming out of Argentina. Pratt is aboard. This is one of those could be anything. I mean, this horse, starts his U.S. or her U.S. campaign in the Eatontown. She might end her year in the Breeders' Cup. This is the type of horse for Chad that you just have no idea. He could be sitting on an absolute pile of gold here. So she's a must-use. The 2 Five Towns is a very solid horse shipping in from Graham Motion. She's run well over some wet turf in the past, so if we do get some afternoon showers, she's one to use. And the horse that I like is the 3 Ozara, shipping in for Miguel Clement. This horse ran really, really well last time in the Monroe Stakes at Gulfstream. Literally looked like a winner every step of the way. I think she's getting a little bit better with age. I wasn't her biggest fan last year as a 3-year-old, but now as a 4-year-old after that last race, I'm back on board, and I'm going to key on her, the 3 Ozara, in race 11.
All right, and race 12 is the last race of the afternoon, 5:53 Eastern. It's the $100,000 Ladies Secret Stakes, and as you mentioned earlier, Brian, the last of those 5 stakes races run in succession at Monmouth this afternoon. Occult and Gunsong. They break side by side from posts 1 and 2 respectively. This should be a great showdown between those two. Do you think it's one of those two that's standing in the winner's circle, or is there an upsetter here somewhere?
I'm going to try to end with an upsetter. I'm going to go with the 7 Majestic Oops for Dan Ward. I feel like this might be a really good race where if horse players out there, if you're just looking at the past performances, forget the name of the horse, the trainer, just look at the horse's past performance. Majestic Oops is running just as good, if not faster, races than any horse in the field. But Occult, as you said, is trained by Chad Brown. Gunsong, as you said, is trained by Mark Hennig and was second to Torpedo Anna last year. These are horses that everyone knows for connections that everyone knows. Majestic Oops, is running in lesser races at Oaklawn this winter for a trainer, Dan Ward, who we all know here at Monmouth, but maybe nationally isn't as big as certainly Mark Hennig or Chad Brown. So I'm interested to see what the price is on Majestic Oops. Her last 2 buyer speed figures are 88 and 93. That's faster than pretty much anything Occult or Gunsong or anyone else in the field has ever run. So the fact that she's trained by a quote-unquote lesser-named national trainer, again, Dan Ward wins a ton of races here at Monmouth, a lot of races at Oaklawn. We certainly know him extremely well here, but he doesn't have the national recognition as a Hennig or a Brown. What price are we getting on Majestic Oops? She's 9-2 on the morning line. I feel like she's going to be right around there. I think the other big-name horses and connections are going to take the money, and Majestic Oops is going to give you a good value play in the Ladies' Secret, the finale at Monmouth today.
Yeah, I had the chance to spend a full hour with Dan Ward on yesterday's Trainer Talk show presented by Fasig-Tipton, and here's a guy with all kinds of star power on his resume. He cut his teeth working with Bobby Frankel, then with Jerry Hollendorfer. He's been around some of the greatest horses we've had over the past several years, and now here he is with Majestic Oops. So if folks want to head back to our website, they can listen to the podcast there or on any podcast platform. Well worth it. Dan Ward has some great stories, and maybe he's the upsetter of the Ladies' Secret later today.
I hope so. He's going to be this horse is going to be kind of my key in the last race. Some of the earlier races, as I said, look a little chalky to me. So I'll take even 9-2 in the finale. And this pick 5 isn't. The way I'm going to play it is I don't see this pick 5 paying $1,000 for 50 cents. It's not one of those where you play a $40 ticket and you hope to hit it once for $1,000. I think it's going to be a little chalky. Maybe it'll pay $100 for 50 cents. So I'm going to try to play it multiple times. If I have it 10 times and it pays $50 for 50 cents, I'll certainly take the $500. But this is going to be a horse that I'm going to hope to definitely get to the winner's circle to increase the payout a little bit.
Another Hall of Fame performance by Brian Skirka here on the Equine Forum on HRRN. Brian, appreciate the visit. Enjoy Haskell Preview Day, and we'll talk next month with the Haskell.
Thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it.
You got it, buddy. Yeah, good card there at Monmouth today, and I love the way he laid out his betting strategy for that pick 5 too. It's going to be a really fun wager to take a swing at today, and maybe you get lucky and catch a couple of those higher priced horses, and maybe it does pay just a little bit more than what we're expecting, but should be a really good afternoon of racing on the Jersey Shore. All right, coming up in just a few minutes, you're going to hear from Darin Zoccali with TwinSpires. They have announced that new series of contests tying in to Royal Ascot, which kicks off on Tuesday. He'll tell you all about it right after your Legends of the Turf and this short commercial break.
This tidbit of thoroughbred racing lore covers a time span. A time span, in this case, being the career of a horse which was a record setter while racing, but whose credentials as a sire stamped his name in capital letters on the now yellowing pages of recorded thoroughbred racing history. Calumet Farm purchased this horse as a yearling in 1936 at the Keeneland sale for $14,000 from Coldstream Studs Consignment. As a performer on the racetrack, he was good enough to win the Widener, Bluegrass, and Kenner Stakes, the Thornton Memorial, and the Autumn Handicap. At Keeneland, just a stone's throw from Calumet, he set track standards for 1 1/16 miles and 1 1/8 miles. In 27 starts, he had 10 wins, 7 seconds, and 2/3. That composite was accrued in 4 years of racing. He entered stud in 1944, a pittance, $750. But that quickly shot up when Twilight Tear and Duranza became successful on the racetrack as two of his progeny. These two were resultant of his first crop to race. He led the sire list 5 times, 1947, 48, 49, 52, and 53. He ranked second on the sire list 3 times, third once, fifth once, and eighth once. At the time of his death in 1964, he had been matched only by Starshot and the legendary Nasrullah as a leading sire. He was the very first stallion who's get over $1 million in a single season, and he did it in back-to-back years in 1946 and 47. His get included 28 $100,000 winners, and he sired 358 foals, of which 268 of them won. To the end of his final year at stud, his offspring had accounted for 1,723 wins. He was the daddy of the consummately superb Citation, the solid-performing, hard-knocking Coal Town, and the quintessential filly Bewitch, all from a single year's crop. Bewitch and Twilight Tear were 2 of America's very best mares of all time. Our subject's thoroughbred sired 2 other Kentucky Derby winners in addition to Citation in 1948. He was the sire of Hillgale, who won in 1952, and Iron Liege, who won in 1957. For 5 years, from 1951 through 1956, his get held all 3 individual money-winning championships. Bewitch as a mare, Armed in 1947 and Citation in 1948 were horses of the year, and Coal Town was named Outstanding Performer of 1949. Another of his get, Bull Page, was Canadian Horse of the Year in 1951. His offspring included these divisional champions: 2-year-old Citation, 2-year-old fillies Duranza and Bewitch, 3-year-olds Twilight Tear and Citation, 3-year-old fillies Twilight Tear, Thule, Wistful, Next Move, and Real Delight. Handicap horse, Armed, twice by the way, Citation and Coal Town. Handicap mares, Bewitch, Twilight Tear, Thule, and Real Delight, and champion sprinter Coal Town. This remarkable thoroughbred led the list of broodmare sires for 4 successive seasons, 1958 through 1961, and the offspring of his daughters included Quadrangle, Ambiapoise, Blue Scope, Bourbon Prince, Finnegan, Good Move, A Pat on the Back, Bardstown, On and On, Restless Wind, I Done, Tim Tam, Leala, Barbizon, Pucker Up, Dukes Lee, Lee Lane, and How Now. Among his get, subsequently becoming leading sires, including the likes of Citation, sire of Fabius, Silver Spoon, and many others, and Bo Max, sire of How Now and Golden Notes. At the time of his demise on June 16, 1964 at Calumet, he had established a record as the most successful sire of the 20th century in America. This son of Bulldog, out of Rose Leaves by Ballot, who left many memories, records, and a statue next to his gravesite at Calumet, and whose legend lives on to this very day, was Bull Lee.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Monmouth Park's summer season rolls on with live racing action starting at 12:50 every weekend. Monmouth's 2025 season featured increased total handle for the fourth straight year. The biggest pools means bigger payoffs. New for 2025, Monmouth introduces a 50-cent middle pick 5, joining the win early pick 5 on the wagering menu. With a stakes race every Saturday and Sunday, Monmouth Park is your summer place to profit. Attending on site, lock in your odds with fixed odds wagering at Monmouth Park Racetrack.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
August row down the orange and blue, moving comfortably at this stage in fourth. Alflaila, striped cap, looking for a way out. Lord North in the blue and white is on the move, and now August Rodan powers through to tackle Raw Ryan. Furlong and a half left to go. Horizon Dore from off the pace, widest of all is being delivered late, but it's August Rodan in front as they come inside the furlong. Horizon Dore challenging. Zarakem in the emerald green trying to thread the eye of the needle. August Rodan from Horizon Dore and Zarakem, and it's August Rodan who wins the Prince of Wales' stakes. Zarakem was up for second, Horizon Dore and third, close for fourth between Royal Rhine and Alflaila, and in spiral midfield, Never Threats.
Auguste Rodin with a win in the 2024 Prince of Wales Stakes. That race going to be renewed at Royal Ascot coming up on Wednesday. Royal Ascot beginning on Tuesday. And as part of the excitement, TwinSpires announced this week the inaugural Royal Ascot Challenge Series, a series of contests that you can participate in at TwinSpires.com. And Darin Zoccali is with me now to tell you more about that. Darin, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How we doing?
Yeah, everything's great, man. I'm looking forward to this new series. This is pretty exciting.
Yeah, the Ascot meet here in the U.S. has certainly had more and more attention, over the past few years. Obviously, we've had more and more American runners show up there, which has kind of captivated some of the American horse players a bit. And we've seen wagering handle, tick up, over the years, and people that are engaged with the meet tick up as well. And now that we had tournaments launched last summer, we thought it was a great fit, to test something out. And thankfully, we were able to get together with our friends over there at Ascot and work out an agreement to offer both a money-back offer for them and get involved in tournaments. So, it's kind of an uncharted water for us. We've never run an international contest before, so it's a little bit of a wild card, but it's one of the most fun meets that there is anywhere in the world. So we're definitely excited to kind of pair up our tournament engine with Ascot and see how people respond to it.
How will the tournaments work, and how do people get involved?
Sure. So to get involved, just if you go to TwinSpires.com and you look at that top banner, you're going to see, I believe, second or third from the right, you see the tournaments menu. So you just hover your mouse over that. You get a drop-down menu. You click Register for Tournaments, and the entire list of all of our tournaments are there. And then you could just see the Royal Ascot Series. They're always in chronological order. So right now they're a little bit further down because it's still about 4 days away. But you click on the tournament you want. You click Register for Tournament, pays into your entry fee, and then the day of the contest, you will log into your TwinSpires account, and you'll have a little drop-down show up on the top of your screen that says you are in a live tournament today. Click here to participate. You click there, and it takes you to the tournament. It's very, very easy, a great user experience. But yeah, the tournament itself, so it's kind of a mini series of cash tournaments where there are seat implications if a certain number of players do sign up. But if not, they're each their own individual cash tournament. The majority of them are $150. Then it goes to $100, I believe, on Thursday, a $200 contest on Friday, and then it culminates with a $500 big contest for closing day of the meeting on Saturday. Win, place, exacta, trifecta wagers are included in the tournaments. It's live money bankroll, which means that you are playing as the races go on. It is not a method where you have to lock in your bets beforehand. You can see what the standings look like and adjust your wagers accordingly based on where you want to finish. And, you just participate throughout the day and kind of make your morning of Ascot a little bit more fun.
All of these different types of contests that are offered by TwinSpires involve a certain amount of strategy, and I'm sure people approach them in different ways, Darin. What recommendations do you have for horse players who are jumping into one of these contests at Royal Ascot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've seen a lot of the successful players in horse on TwinSpires that are playing in the tournaments. What they do, they try to hit early, and then they kind of sit around and they make minimum wagers to see what everybody else is doing. And, that probably works on some of our, like, Tuesday at Horseshoe Indianapolis tournaments. I don't know if that's going to work at Royal Ascot because some of the payouts are wild. I think you probably need to stay away from favorites. I think if you're going to probably need to hit, one or two decent-sized prices over the course of the day in order to be successful in these and get to the top of the leaderboard. I would say that this is a tournament where maybe you go a little bit more against the grain. You're not settling for the favorites in certain races, and you're taking big swings because I think this is one of those where it's kind of like the BCBC where there's going to be a big price somewhere, and if you don't have it, you're probably not going to win. So you have to get pretty aggressive when it comes to that.
You mentioned the Stephen Foster betting challenge on June 28th. That's the final weekend at Churchill Downs with this spring meet, which has just been spectacular. Tell me more about the Stephen Foster betting challenge because there is a potential seed on the line with these Royal Ascot Challenge tournaments.
Yeah, so coming out of the tournament on Saturday, if we get to a certain number of players, it will trigger a Stephen Foster betting challenge seat. And the Stephen Foster betting challenger has a $3,000 buy-in, $2,000 to your bankroll, $1,000 to the prize pool. Takes place on Foster Day, which is Saturday, June the 28th. It's going to offer a minimum of 2 NHC seats, 2 BCBC seats, 2 KDBC seats, and guaranteed $10,000 cash pool. That's pretty much what we need 50 players to cover that, but no matter what, that is the bare minimum of what we're offering. And then with each player over 50, that prize pool will increase, and it could potentially unlock up to 6 KDBC seats as well. Same situation, live money bankroll, kind of like a BCBC type contest, but it's a little bit of a mid-major. It's priced a little bit lower than some of the really big contests, the 5,000, the 6, the 10. This one's at 3, but it makes Foster Day a lot better. And we have a big qualifier actually today for $500. To get in, one entry for every 12 players in the contest for that big one. So, and I think when I looked this morning, we already had 62, 63 players signed up. So,
wow,
we're already triggering at least 5 seats into the Stephen Foster with our qualifier today.
When you go to TwinSpires.com and you talked about the easy interface to access the tournament schedule and all the tournament information, and it is super easy. You just click on the Tournaments tab at the very top of the page, and you can look up all the information you need. The TwinSpires Tour leaderboard. Tell me more about the TwinSpires Tour. It's an awesome concept.
Yeah, so, we started to see a lot of the same names in a lot of our contests and getting a lot of positive feedback. So we thought, wouldn't it be a good idea if we created a kind of series where these guys can compete against each other all year long? And we put together this tour, which is kind of like the PGA Tour, I guess. And certain contests are going to be eligible for tour points. And when you click on the specific tournament, if it's eligible, you'll see it listed in blue at the top, that this is eligible for tour points. And you can kind of climb the leaderboard throughout the year by earning points in these tournaments. And then the year is split up into 4 different sessions. So there's cash prizes that you could chase in each of the individual sessions that have their own score. And then there's cash prizes and KDBC seats that you could chase in the year-long tour. It's a grand total of $50,000 in cash plus seats. And, the more you participate in tournaments, you don't have to do anything else. It doesn't cost anything extra. You play in a tournament and you do well, you're going to start to see your name on the leaderboard. We're coming up to the end of the first session, I believe on June the 29th, but then we come right back around at the beginning of July and kick off session number 2. And your yearly points stay as well. So those will keep accumulating throughout the year. So be sure, if you're going to play in our tournaments, be sure to check that leaderboard because you're automatically entered into that.
Darin, you can hear the excitement in your voice when you talk about the leaderboard and you talk about the tour and all of the tournaments that TwinSpires is offering. How cool of a job is this for you?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, I do a lot with TwinSpires and loyalty and retention and, working with our players. I'm a horse player by heart. I've been going to the racetrack since before I could do anything, literally, before I could talk or eat. So being involved in racing has always been something that, has been, that this is my career is kind of a pinch me kind of thing. But when we started to launch tournaments last year, and it took over a year to get there with player feedback and having focus groups and talking to tournament players and showing them our product and trying it and listening to their feedback and using their ideas to kind of add to what we were doing really helped us. And seeing the response that we've had and launching a successful year one of KDBC where we had 173 players participate, and now we're getting phone calls from racetracks asking us, what can we do to have tournaments on our track, and can we do a little bit extra to incentivize, and it's a rare thing in horse racing when the overwhelming majority of the player feedback has been positive, and any type of suggestion has been a really good constructive criticism that has not been anything over the top. And in horse racing that's hard, because in horse racing I always say if you put 100 people into a room, you're probably going to hear them yell about 100 different things. So to hear the overwhelming majority be so positive about this and be able to listen to our players and implement their ideas and just watch this thing continue to grow has been really, really refreshing. And it's one of those things that's never going to be finished. We're going to keep expanding it, keep building upon it. We have a lot of cool new things coming, new features. It's going to be available on the TwinSpires app soon. There's going to be a brand new landing page for tournaments soon that's going to have toggles and filters so you could filter on and off the tournaments you're in. Certain types of tournaments, you're going to be able to toggle on cash, toggle off cash, feeders, qualifiers, by track, tournaments you're registered in. So if you want to see what you've already paid into, it's just going to keep getting better. And it's been an exciting year for us. And I can't wait to see how far this thing goes.
Darin, I'm going to, considering the fact that you are such a huge fan of racing and a horse player at heart, I'm going to hit you up with the poll question I threw out there for our listeners on this morning's Equine Forum. What is the most compelling division in racing today? Is it the older male division, the older female division, the 3-year-old males, or the 3-year-old females? And I'm sure people will have other opinions there too, but those are the 4 choices. What do you think? Which division of those 4 is the most compelling right now?
I think right now it has to be the 3-year-old males because you're coming out of the Triple Crown and the buzz of sovereignty versus journalism and the potential of that rivalry continuing later on the year, I think has been something that's probably captivated the majority of the racing fans. I would love for those 2 to continue to knock heads and get to a strong older male division, going forward in the years to come. But I think right now, because of the buzz of sovereignty and journalism and the fact that they've run 2 races that were almost identical in the Derby and the Belmont Stakes, I think that has to be the answer, and a showdown in the Travers and the Breeders' Cup Classic, and wanting to see the 2 of them in there is probably the one that I think captivates the audience the most.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that logic. Darin Zoccali with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Darin, appreciate the visit. The TwinSpires inaugural Royal Ascot Challenge Series begins on Tuesday. You can participate every single day of the Royal Ascot meet next week. Should be fantastic. And take your shot at a potential seat in the Stephen Foster Betting Challenge on June 28th. Appreciate the visit, my friend. Thanks for laying out the details for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and best luck to all the players this weekend and playing in our tournaments, especially at the one Ascot next week.
You got it. We'll talk soon, buddy.
All right, sounds good, man.
Darin Zoccali here on HRRN. When I come back, I'll get you ready for hour number 2. It includes my one-on-one interview with Hall of Famer John Velazquez that you will not want to miss. I'll tell you more when I come back. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment. Email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Adopt U.S. Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Keen Cat circles up on the far outside to within 4 lengths of the lead as they come for the top of the stretch. Critical Threat, Gunner Bay. Pure Panic fighting on with Forge and Fire like a salt shaker in Keen Cat. Global Sensation in behind. Racing for the mid-stretch marker. Wide open still. Critical Threat short lead. Here comes like a salt shaker and here comes Keen Cat. Fighting on is Gunner Bay. Final 16th coming. And it's like a salt shaker with a short lead. Keen Cat coming after like a salt shaker. Down to the wire. It's going to be close. It's tight. Like a salt shaker might have got the nose down over Keen Cat. It is too tight to tell. Anti-Gravity rallied for third.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was Travis Stone with the call of the 2024 renewal of the Rapid Transit, like a salt shaker, getting the victory. He will go on to be named the Claiming Crown Horse of the Year, and I'm going to talk more about like a salt shaker with Eric Hamelback, who is the CEO of the National HBPA. He joins me coming up shortly, 9 o'clock Eastern, for today's Kentucky-bred conversation. We'll look ahead to the 27th running of the Claiming Crown, which is back at Churchill Downs on November 15th. He'll also tell you all about Claiming Crown Showcase Day, which will take place Thursday, August 21st at Colonial Downs. So stay tuned for that interview. Also, Hall of Famer John Velazquez coming your way at 9:20 Eastern. Had a chance to catch up with Johnny for an extended visit yesterday, and we had a lot of fun talking about his place, where he is right now with his career, 53 years old, and still competing at the highest levels and winning at the highest levels, especially after what he did in that banner Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga. 6 stakes wins, 3 grade 1s, and a grade 3. Fantastic. Stay tuned for that conversation later in hour number 2. Hour 3 kicks off 10 Eastern with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kevin Kilroy will give you 3 races to watch and wager on later today with TwinSpires. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. Remember to watch America's Day at the Races every Thursday through Sunday for coverage from Belmont at the Big A and throughout the East Coast. Join Andy Serling, Maggie Wolfendale, and the Fox team for live racing plus expert picks and analysis. You can visit NYRA.com/TV for a complete schedule. And by the way, I talked about the Claiming Crown coming to Churchill Downs. Many of you are going to be making your way to the Bluegrass State, whether it's to Louisville, to Lexington, or some other part of the state over the course of the next several months. If you're going to be in Lexington, you have to check out Tony's of Lexington. If you want an unbelievable meal, best steak I've ever had, hands down. If you know me, I'm a steak and potatoes guy. It is unbelievable. The atmosphere is first class. The staff, first class. The food, first class. You can't do better than Tony's of Lexington. They're on Main Street, just behind Rupp Arena. Make sure you check them out. Call now to get your reservations and tell them that the Baron told you to come in and say hello, and they will take great care of you. Even if you don't mention my name, they're going to take great care of you. As a matter of fact, maybe it's better that you don't mention my name in there. No, they're wonderful people. They will take care of you at Tony's of Lexington. I promise you that. All right, hour 2 of the Equine Forum coming your way next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
1 hour down, 2 to go on this edition of the Equine Forum. The road to the Breeders' Cup has begun now that the Triple Crown has finished. 138 days, 14 hours, 59 minutes, and 52 seconds away from the Breeders' Cup returning to Del Mar in Southern California. That comes up October 31st and November 1st. And even though we don't have challenge races here in the States per se, you still have a lot of really good races coming up this afternoon. You heard Brian Skirka in the first hour of the program talking about the Haskell preview day at Monmouth, and there are 5 stakes races. 2 of those are graded. He walked through each of those 5 races, shared his thoughts on some of the horses to watch, and he even went through his strategy of putting together a pick 5 bet. So if you missed that interview, head back to our website after we finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern. That's horseracingradio.net, and you can listen to his selections, and hopefully they help you when you're putting your tickets together to play Monmouth. You also have a big day at Delaware, with the Delaware Oaks being the signature event there. And the Delaware Oaks, if you look back through the history of that race, there have been some unbelievable fillies to come through that race. How about Proud Spell, winner of that race in 2008? Blind Luck won the Delaware Oaks in 2010. Jaywalk pulled off the victory in 2019. It is a race that has an awful lot of history and some really prominent winners. So keep an eye on the horses competing in today's Delaware Oaks. Probably no Jaywalk in that field, no champion like that or Blind Luck, but it's a really solid renewal, and you can catch that coming up at Delaware Park this afternoon. And again, looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup, even though these aren't challenge races, they're races that are going to have an impact on many of these divisions as we make our way down the road to the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Poll question this morning. Keeping it simple, really, but what is the most compelling division in racing today? What is the most compelling division in racing today? And I gave you a few choices here. The older male division. I mentioned Fierceness, White Abarrio going down in defeat in the Met Mile. A lot of people were looking at those 2 horses as the leaders in the division. Well, they both got beat. So does that add intrigue to that older male division? How about the older female division? Is that compelling? Torpedo Anna didn't show up last time. A shocking defeat. Does she return and claim her spot as the top dog in that category, if you will? 3-year-old male or 3-year-old female. Those are your choices. So far, 59% of you, right after this Triple Crown, saying it's the 3-year-old male division that is the most compelling in racing. Kind of hard to argue with that after that great showdown that we saw in the Derby and then in the Belmont with Sovereignty and Journalism, and then Baeza running out for 3rd in both of those races. Really neat to see those 3 horses finish 1, 2, 3 in the same order they did in the Kentucky Derby, too. And we know Journalism isn't going away quietly here. Yeah, Sovereignty has the better of him right now, but he's not going down quietly. I think I'm a little surprised the 3-year-old female division isn't getting more love in the poll. Only 9% of you saying that that's the most compelling division. I think there's a lot of intrigue here. Good Cheer was undefeated before she suffered that defeat in the Acorn, and she looked unbeatable. Well, she was unbeatable to that point, but she looked like she was so dominating, nobody was going to catch her. Licara beats her in the Acorn. Licara is serious. Licara is a good racehorse for Mark Casse. You're going to hear more from her. And then you have Immersive coming back today at Churchill Downs for Brad Cox, the undefeated 2-year-old champion who had to go to the sidelines with that injury. She's back. I don't think she has to win that race today. I think there are other horses that are going to make her work for it. She better bring her A game. Take Charge Milady being one, Anna's Promise being another. I think both of those horses are kind of serious. So I think that division has some intrigue to it as well. But so far, 59% of you saying it's the 3-year-old male division. You can go to @HRRN on X to cast your vote. You can do that, too, on our Facebook page, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. And if you don't do social media, you can email the show. You can also let us know your thoughts on the impossible trivia question. Going to reveal the answer coming up at 10:55 Eastern in the final segment of the show. Who wrote the article entitled "The Kentucky Derby is Decadent and Depraved," set during the 1970 Kentucky Derby? Again, that answer coming your way, 10:55 Eastern. All right, John Velazquez coming up 9:20 Eastern, but I mentioned Eric Hamelback, the CEO of the National HBPA. I told you he would be here, and he's here right now. Actually, I caught up with him yesterday, and we talked about the Claiming Crown. We talked about the Claiming Crown Preview Day coming up at Colonial. Lots of things to get into. I think you're going to enjoy this interview. It's your Kentucky-bred conversation with Eric Hamelback. Eric Hamelback is the CEO of the National HBPA. You've heard from him many, many times here on the Equine Forum over the years. Does a fantastic job. And he's gearing up for the Claiming Crown. And you say, wait a minute, Baron, the Claiming Crown isn't until November 15th. But there is a big event taking place on August 21st at Colonial Downs that if you're pointing for the Claiming Crown, you want to point for that one too. And Eric is here to tell you all about it. Eric, good morning.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today?
Doing great, my friend, and excited to talk to you about the Claiming Crown Showcase Day taking place at Colonial Thursday, August 21st. Tell me more about this.
Absolutely. We are so excited. A plan that kind of came together and organized actually on Virginia Derby Day when we were over for the Virginia Derby there at Colonial Downs. A lot of the Churchill Downs management crew was there. Able to visit directly with the Virginia HBPA, and I had hoped to try to bring back qualifying races, as we get a little more solidified at being at Churchill Downs for the Claiming Crown. And we had talked about various qualifying races that we had done in the past. We've done some at Indiana, or now Horseshoe Indianapolis. We've done some at Kentucky Downs. It had always been quite popular when we were at Pimlico, between Pimlico and Laurel, when the Claiming Crown was down at Gulfstream Park. We always did a showcase day or qualifying day, and then the horses that won those races had an automatic gate ticket into the Claiming Crown at Gulfstream. So having that in mind, trying to get a bit more secure at Churchill, pitched it over to those guys with particular Dan Bork, and he just popped back very quickly and he said, why don't we do a whole card? And so for the first time, we're actually doing a qualifying race for every race, all 8 races that are going to be conditioned and written for the actual Claiming Crown in November. we're going to do a race qualifying not one, but 2 horses from each race. So having talked to Ben Huffman and Dan Bork at Churchill, the management team with Mike Ziegler agreed, went to the Virginia HBPA, and their board was more than willing to put $550,000 up total for the purses. And so we're going to have the first place horse and the second place. So win and place will get to go as an automatic qualifier to the corresponding race at Churchill Downs. And then to top it off, the board at Virginia HBPA has even guaranteed a travel stipend for the winner, up to $2,000 for each of the winners of those races to ship to Churchill if they need to get over there. So couldn't be more excited. It's on a Thursday evening, so we're going to have kind of a twilight racing, have a big deal about it, and hopefully it'll go over well, and I'm just very excited about it.
Eric, I have to tell you, we have worked closely with the team at the Virginia Thoroughbred Association and Colonial Downs over the years, and there are few racetracks that you can work with that are as accommodating as Colonial Downs, and I can see that with the Virginia Thoroughbred Association too, with some of the things you mentioned. They are always more than willing to go the extra mile for the racing product, and I think that is so refreshing.
Absolutely. And they recognize when the races were in Maryland, there were obviously a lot of similarities in the trainers that are now going to to Colonial, and absolutely. So that Mid-Atlantic flair has always been supported down at Gulfstream, and this gives that opportunity for some of those that based in Maryland, based in Pennsylvania, get a qualifying race into them, and then see where they'll stand getting to the Claiming Crown itself in November. So couldn't have been, as you said, more accommodating and willing to really accentuate this event.
Can you believe that this is going to be the 27th renewal of the Claiming Crown in November?
It is unbelievable to me. We keep trying to, build up one and make it better and better, and certainly more of a showcase for horse players out there. But 27 years in the books come this November is absolutely amazing to be, showcasing the hardworking, blue-collar, whatever cliche you want to pass out to the horses that I always say the Tuesday, Wednesday horses that create the purses for Saturday, Sunday. These are the guys that are in it every day, and this is their time to shine. And, looking at what was the horse Claiming Crown Horse of the Year this year, when you look at some of the quotes that Brittany made, at the time even said this was the biggest race she'd ever won. And so, kudos to Leica Salt Shaker, that entire team with Brittany Vandenberg, just really accentuated the importance of the Claiming Crown, but also the excitement and having it at Churchill under the TwinSpires, with all the renovations that they've done, just as it couldn't have been a better coming together of magic last year, when now for the first time they had their paddock and everything put together.
I'm so glad you brought up the Claiming Crown Horse of the Year. The name Salt Shaker, 6 years old, trained by, as you said, Brittany Vandenberg, ridden by her husband, jockey Chris Amy. It's a really cool story all the way around. What goes into selecting a Claiming Crown Horse of the Year every single season?
So what we do, Todd Mostaller, who's again the executive director of the Pennsylvania HBPA, he is the committee chair for our industry awards committee. So we have multiple type awards that we give out. We also give out a Claiming Horse of the Year, the National HBPA Claiming Horse of the Year. But with this partnership, obviously, that we have with Toba, several years back, I went to Dan Metzger and his board and requested that we begin to give away a Claiming Crown specific Horse of the Year trophy at their Breeders' Award each year. It was extremely well received. They were absolutely thrilled to do so. So now what occurs is we go through all of the horses that are in the Claiming Crown, and obviously we focus on the winners coming out of those races, and the Industry Awards Committee has a meeting. They deliberate on the winners, and they talk about their career as a whole, and then we don't meet till after the first of the next year. So sometimes, like a Salt Shaker, they've even had additional races that have gone on after the Claiming Crown to really showcase their talent. But they all deliberate over the horses that were in the Claiming Crown, and then they choose the horse that not necessarily has made the most money of all the horses that were entered, but the one that exemplifies what is a Claiming Crown horse of the year. In other words, what horse truly exemplifies that claiming game, that blue-collar workhorse that we all aspire to have, and many in the industry are dealing day to day with these horses and the claiming horses.
Talking with National HBPA CEO Eric Hamelback here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. This week's Kentucky Bred Conversation, which is presented by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development and Breeders Incentive Funds, which, by the way, issued a record $20 million in KTBIF awards this year to breeders of Kentucky bred horses. And Eric, you are as far from a Kentucky bred as you could get. You were bred in the Bayou, but your heart is now in Kentucky, and the Claiming Crown coming to Churchill Downs, one of the most iconic racetracks in the world, in Louisville, Kentucky in November. What does it mean to have the Claiming Crown at Churchill?
Well, it really means a lot from just the standpoint of the mystique of being at Churchill. Everyone knows the TwinSpires, regardless of your level of knowledge in horse racing, but they know the TwinSpires, and having that connection, having now our Claiming Crown Championship Series there, it means a lot to the horsemen. And with the KTDF, it really became a no-brainer because, again, you're looking at up to $25,000 additional money that the KTDF puts up for instance, in the Jewel. So, again, our purse of $200,000 now, as a Kentucky bred, you're eligible for another $25,000. So, that fund has been, a savior for the industry here in Kentucky. What it has done for the Kentucky bred, it almost can't be qualified because the money and the incentives have really benefited those who choose to breed here in Kentucky and race Kentucky breds really anywhere, but having this KTDF fund here and now associated also with the Claiming Crown, it's an amazing partnership.
I can't help but think about Canterbury Park when I hear the name Claiming Crown. I guess it's just the old school nature of me being a horse racing fan. It was always a fantastic event when it was at Canterbury, and now to see the progress that this event has made over the years, much of that credit to you, to the team at HBPA, and to all of the partners. What are you most proud of, Eric, when you think about where the Claiming Crown started and where it is today?
Well, I tell you, the don't want to cry here, but get emotional when I mention Tom Metzen. And, of course, we still run the Tom Metzen Memorial Canterbury, which is, 5.5 furlong turf sprint. Tom loved this event, and he, along with others, including Drew Couto, really put this together to highlight those who weren't necessarily Breeders' Cup horses, but they were champion horses in their own right. To see this race, or to see this championship series progress and then really flourish in Gulfstream under the tutelage of Kent Sterling, and now we run, the Kent Sterling Iron Horse, which couldn't be named better for Kent. We want to acknowledge those that have got us to this point, and I'm very pleased that it's continued to be a signature event for horse racing. I've often said everyone feels as if the Breeders' Cup is, the end of our normal racing season, even though it's during the same calendar year. I like to think of the Claiming Crown Championship Series as the beginning of the next season. So, coming off the heels of the Breeders' Cup, as we typically do, this kind of kicks off the next season. But this year, we've definitely tried to bring more highlight to it. We are going to have, thanks to Ben Huffman and Dan Bork, we're actually going to have a Grade 3. I think the Chaluki will be run on the same day. It'll be right before the Emerald and the Jewel, the highlight races for the Claiming Crown. We have a series through TwinSpires. We're going to do some betting series of a few more horizontal options, a pick 5 Claiming Crown, and that sort of thing, really bringing some horse player attention to it. But then also we're going to have, working with the NTRA, an NHC qualifying event. It'll be an online event, but using the Claiming Crown on that day, guaranteeing a seat in the handicapping tournament the beginning of 2026. So everything we do to try to showcase this, to try to highlight the owners, highlight the trainers and the teams that put these horses in the right place at the right time to get to this championship. It truly warms my heart, and to kind of end at the beginning, standing in the winner's circle last year by myself, looking around, thinking of Tom Metzen, knowing how proud he would be that this event is where it is today. I had to have a tear in my eye because it was very special to me to think about Tom.
So awesome. The 27th annual Claiming Crown back at Churchill Downs, November 15th. Again, Claiming Crown Showcase Day coming up at Colonial Downs on Thursday, August 21st. Automatic entry into the Claiming Crown for the top 2 finishers in each division that day, and the winner of each race is going to be receiving a stipend, a travel stipend, up to $2,000, provided that they start in the Claiming Crown in November. Wonderful, wonderful developments on the part of Eric and HBPA and the Claiming Crown itself. Eric, keep it rolling, man, and we couldn't be happier to partner with you and HBPA and to talk about this incredible event. It really is spectacular.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, no, we're extremely excited and appreciate everything you do at HRRN. We can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, brother. Eric Hamelback, the CEO of the National HBPA, with me here on HRRN, and that is indeed your Kentucky-bred conversation for this Saturday morning. First implemented in 2005, the KTBIF has provided more than $250 million. I didn't say million, $250 million to breeders of Kentucky breds winning eligible races worldwide. In 2024, Kentucky breds won 72% of greatest stakes races in the U.S., including the 3 legs of the Triple Crown with 3 different horses. Of course, you had champion 3-year-old filly and horse of the year Torpedo Anna, also Kentucky bred. And this year, well, they haven't stopped either. Sovereignty, journalism, Kentucky bred, and we do not plan on slowing down. Kentucky breds, breed them, raise them, race them, we all win. For more information on racing and breeding in Kentucky, visit KentuckyBreds.com. Cannot wait for that Claiming Crown in November and for the Showcase Day coming up in August as well. Make sure you circle that on your calendar. Every horseman, make sure you circle that and make sure you're there if you want to be in action at Churchill Downs in mid-November. Coming up next, my extended conversation with Hall of Famer John Velazquez, who took down 6 stakes races during the Belmont Racing Festival at Saratoga last weekend. 3 Grade 1s and a Grade 3. He walks through all of those and talks about one he didn't win aboard a horse named Fierceness. That's next on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The spring meet at Churchill Downs is off and running with live racing Wednesday through Sunday, now through June 29th. With 50 stakes on tap worth a record of over $26 million and purses powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund, you won't want to miss the spring meet at Churchill Downs. And don't forget, racing doesn't stop after the Kentucky Derby with the Grade 1 $1 million Stephen Foster on June 28th. For post times and full spring meet schedule, visit churchilldowns.com.
Check out the all-new horseracingradio.net. All the same great horse racing radio content in a new, easy-to-use design. Listen to all of our shows streaming live or access the replays anytime. See our schedule, sign up for our newsletter, download our latest podcasts, and so much more. It's all on our website at horseracingradio.net. That's horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
As they approach the top of the stretch, they are in front, a short lead. Flight of the Stars is just in behind them, and a host of pursuers are coming on. The horse is in with a chance on the outside. Second Empire. Hawksley Hill is now coming hard. Lapid is finding his best stride length. Toyota on the outside, nothing up for Taylor Tripp. There's the Haas and Hawksley Hill. Hawksley Hill into Haas. Hawksley Hill forges a short lead. The Haas, whose game as they come, coming down to the line. Spine Taylor straight drive. The Haas comes back. Unbelievable. Sensational. In victory here today was very, very close with Hawksley Hill. Oh my. This is the greatest comeback since Lazarus.
One of the great Tom Durkin calls of all time, one of my personal favorites as well. The Haas winning the 1998 Breeders' Cup Mile. His jockey was a very young John Velazquez. That was the first of Johnny's 21 Breeders' Cup victories. And my goodness, you look at what he did last weekend. He hasn't missed a beat all these years later. 6 stakes victories at the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga. 3 of those were Grade 1s and a Grade 3. And he made sure that AG Bullet punched her ticket back to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint at Del Mar in November with a victory in the Jaipur. Wow, what a weekend for Johnny, and he's with me now to go down the road to the Breeders' Cup. Johnny, appreciate the time, my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mike. And this me feel like you just played that tape, and it's like me coming back like Lazarus. The greatest comeback of Lazarus myself this past week. It's really funny. Yeah, but I do enjoy that call very much. So one of my favorites, yes.
People will say, listen, I'm a big fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Steelers just signed Aaron Rodgers, who people say is way too old to compete at a high level anymore. Johnny, throw all of that out the window. That is absolutely not true when it comes to sports.
Absolutely. Look, I think we just have to have the opportunities. Once we get the opportunities and we have the heart and soul to do what we do best, everything's possible. That's it. As long as you're healthy, that you can perform to the high level, is having the opportunity to show that you still have it. That's the way I look at it.
How satisfying is it for you to sit back after a week like that, where you take down 6 stakes and those 3 Grade 1s and a Grade 3? How satisfying is it for John Velazquez to sit back and realize, you know what, I can still compete with these young kids?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm still here, to tell you the truth, because I know I can compete with these kids. So, it's just having the opportunity to ride these kind of horses, and everything comes into one. So, and then it just happened to be Belmont week that I had all these horses coming into that week, and having the opportunity to ride and show up there. We still have it, I still have it.
How much does experience play a role in your success at this point in your career?
I think it plays a lot. It's about really being in. I don't know. Tell me, it's all about being yourself. Though, I don't change anything. Though, I haven't changed for a long time. The last 25, 30 years. I kind of keep it very simple. And the homework that you do and everything that you do. So I think it helps a lot when you have the same routine and you don't change it and try to make the least mistakes possible, and I think that's what helps my career, and that's the way I would look at it. I'm going to do it my best every time I'll go out there and try to put the horses where I think is the best position for the horses, though. So that helps a lot.
Johnny, you and I are exactly the same age, so I look at you as a very young man. What is that routine that you talk about? How does John Velazquez stay fit and able to compete at these highest levels?
Oh, I'm not one of the guys that like to work out very much, though. That's for sure. But I do ride horses, though. And that keeps me on. But I do. I do a lot of walks. I do yoga. I do biking. I do swimming. Depends on the things that if I'm not doing enough, and then I have to do all those things at the same. Weekly, though, but since I've been very busy and riding a lot of horses, so basically what I do now is yoga, and stretches, before I go and ride. A lot of breathing, exercises to make sure I get, my lungs and oxygen into my muscles and all that stuff, though, kind of get the body nice and loose and all that stuff, though, so. And then mentally, you feel much better mentally. So when you go out there, you know that you prepare for this stuff. So this is how I keep my mind sharp and thinking that my body is 20 years old. It's what I feel. So it feels good. It feels good about it, yeah.
Johnny, over the past 22 years since I started on radio, there are certain interviews that I will never forget, and one of those involves you, when you and I sat down together at a Jockeys Guild conference, and it was such an enjoyable conversation. You were coming back from a serious injury, and I asked you at that point, what makes you want to keep going? Why would you put yourself out there again after having such a devastating injury? What makes you want to come back from it? And I'm going to ask you now, what still motivates and drives John Velazquez sitting here at, 53, 54 years old?
The same thing that I probably told you, I don't know, 13 years ago when I had a really bad injury. I think it's just the thrill of winning, the thrill that you can do this. The horses that keep bringing you back. Look at the week that I just had. Though, it's like just the thrill, just to be part of it and winning races like that. It keeps coming, it keeps bringing you back into it. It's a thing that you can't change. The thrill that you feel by winning and competing in these high levels. It's a feeling that I don't know. I would never get that kind of feeling anywhere else. Though, so that's what brings me back.
When you won the Jaipur on AG Bullet to wrap up what was an incredible week, I looked at my wife Michelle and I said, "Well, now Johnny's just showing off." Come on. I mean, who does that, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, riding good horses, is what that makes you show up. I just picked it up, and I know about the horse a little bit, and although I got a lot of things that, she's very nervous, she's this, she's that, and on that date she was perfect, then just before I went to get on her, she did one of her things, being very nervous and all that stuff. But once I was on her, she was really good. She did everything very good, and nothing that I was expecting that I was told that she was going to do. She's very nervous. She probably wants to, flip over. Or she does this, she does that, and she didn't do any of that. So she was very good, and then that's obviously Richard had it ready for the race, though. Coming back and for her to run that on a race, though, and against a really high quality horses, though, I got to give it to Richard and the team. That's like, have it ready, coming in and into Saratoga and run the way she did. It was special, though. It's like a special feeling, definitely. Yeah.
You were able to put her into a perfect spot almost right from the very beginning. Walk me through that trip with AG Bullet in the Jaipur.
Well, I knew it was going to be, it was at least a couple horses speed. I didn't think she was going to be that close, but she behaved so good on the gate. She broke so well, right from the gate. And then Richard and I talked about the race anyway. And I said, well, the horse next to me, he's going to go, he's going to go to the lead. If it's Polly's horse, like if he can sit second, third, fourth, depends how she breaks, and even before that, I talked to him early in the day before we went to the paddock. I was like, listen, if I'm in the middle of the pack, I think we'll be in a great position, but if she's closer, I'm going to leave it there and try to save the best I can to make sure we have something to finish with. She broke so good that I just kind of let it go for the first 15 of a mile, and I see the horse next to me, and I know he was going to go to the lead. I just kind of follow him in and put it right behind him, so she didn't see daylight too soon, and once I did that, she came back to me. It's like pretty easily, I was like, wow, she relaxed very, very nicely. And that was it. That was the very much a strategy that we were thinking about, and she allowed me to do it. And then from then on, from the 3/8 to the quarter pole, I just sat there, waited, tried to give her a really good chance for her to relax and make sure I had something to finish with. The 3/16 pole just kind of tapped her in there, on the shoulder, and she started moving away, and 8 pole I got after her, and she responded very, very nicely. And very impressed the way she finished and against a tough group though. So, and again, Richard had very ready for it, and he knew it too. Early in the day when we were talking, it's like, I think I have it ready, let's go ahead and win a big one together. And he was right.
Yeah, that's the way your streak of 4 greatest stakes victories concluded on Sunday after the race was postponed from Saturday to Sunday. Let's talk about the way it began on Friday with the Grade 1 Ogden Phipps. Darth Vader for George Weaver pulling off an 8-1 upset in there. Walk me through that race.
I've been riding this filly since last year, and then this year we were trying to do something different with her. And in the first time she ran this year, we want to make sure that we, try to give her a different way that we right in her last year, so we know she wasn't quite ready, but we wanted to make sure that we teach her something. So try to get him from behind, basically try to relax, and she ran really well in the second time she did run well with all the trouble basically that we had. I got to the paddock, and George said to me, so how are we going to stay, St. Louis position? How are we going to stay out of trouble with these things that we don't want to be in the same thing that happened in the race in Church? I was like, I'm going to do the same thing, George. I was like, I think we've been trying to teach her, to come up the pace, and I think it's the best thing for her, to do the same thing. I worry about the trip after that. I don't think it's going to happen. The same thing happened in Churchill down, And the owner was standing right there, and then George was like, he told us, "Are you okay with that?" It's like, man, we've been teaching her to do this, so let's not panic and just go, to the race the way we've been teaching her. And obviously broke well, 3 horses go, and by the time we got to the backside, I see George Rosario's horse, which was the horse supposed to be in the lead, didn't go anywhere, and he was really struggling. And the horse on the lead kind of started getting away from it, and I was laying third, fourth between them, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to let it do it. Get a position where she's comfortable and forget about the horse. The other horse is not going anywhere. And after that, she was so comfortable. Jose Ortiz's horse started open up, and I said, well, let me get a little bit closer because I don't want him to go and steal the race on me. And once I was about three lengths around the 3/8 pole, so I was very comfortable that we were doing it nicely. Got to the quarter pole, and I got really close to the horse on the lead, and worked out perfect there. I just kind of went away from him down the stretch. So, but it's one of the things that you try to teach your horse to do something different, and for it to work out the way it did, we were very happy, very, very happy. Yeah, George had it ready. George told me, Johnny, she's doing better than ever. He gave me all the confidence, that when you go to the paddock saying, this horse is doing so good, so he gave me a lot of confidence with her, yeah.
The racetrack was not ideal, obviously, very, very wet. How much did that maybe play into what you felt underneath you with Darth Vader? Did you feel a different Darth Vader because of the surface?
I was a little worry about it. And when she broke out of the gate going to the first turn, I was a little worried. It's like, man, I don't think she's going to like this. And all of a sudden, we passed, eighth of a mile after, she broke out of the gate and she got into the bridle, and then I got clumped to her. For the first 16th of a mile, I wasn't sure she was going to like it, though. And all of a sudden, she changed. So, yeah, it was very, very impressive, though, for her to be uncomfortable the first part of the race, and then in eighth of a mile later, she was on the bridle where I think she should be. And, yeah, I mean, she didn't mind it after that.
No, she did not. Plenty more conversation with the Hall of Famer Johnny V coming up right after this on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Horse racing is here for our 88th season of live thoroughbred racing at Delaware Park Casino. Join us for our first ever Delaware Derby Day on Saturday, June 14th. Enjoy live racing, food trucks, face painting, and t-shirt and hat giveaways while supplies last. And make plans to play in the Delaware Park Casino $500 major handicapping contest on Saturday, July 5th. Compete for cash prizes and a chance of 2 seats at the 2026 National Horse Players Championship. Join us at Delaware Park.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Sovereignty angles out to try and run him down. It's a rematch of the Kentucky Derby as they come to the 8th bull, and here comes Sovereignty. Sovereignty goes right by journalism once again, leaving absolutely no doubt who the best 3-year-old in the world is. Sovereignty and Junior Alvarado in the Belmont Stakes.
Derby winner and future Darley stallion Sovereignty doubled up his classic win total with an impressive victory in the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes. He recorded a 109 buyer, highest of any 3-year-old in North America this year, and his time in the Belmont is the 4th fastest of any 1.25-mile race ever run at Saratoga. That victory makes the Derby and Belmont winner your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Learn more about all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Darth Vader, a threatening presence in second, Tarifa third, then randomized. Raging Sea, being motivated from last, starts to uncork her rally with a lot of ground to make up at the top of the stretch. Dazzling Move. Darth Vader becoming more and more scary right up alongside, and Raging Sea is 8 lengths back in third. Darth Vader emerges with the lead in mid-stretch and opens up under John Velazquez. It will be Darth Vader to win the Ogden Phipps presented by Ford. Dazzling Move held second. Raging Sea finished third.
Frank Miramati with the call of the Ogden Phipps, won by Darth Vader. You just heard John Velazquez walk you through that entire race, and he talked about some of his concerns with the racetrack that day with Darth Vader, but it didn't bother her even a little bit. And an impressive win for her as she now throws her hat into the ring as one of the top distaffers in the country. She'll have to continue to prove that she belongs, but boy, that was an impressive win with the Hall of Famer aboard. Johnny went on to talk about some of the other victories that he had last week when I had the chance to sit down with him yesterday. And one of those victories came with a pickup mount on the Bill Mott-trained Parchment Party in the Grade 3 Belmont Gold Cup. That was a race originally scheduled to be run at 2 miles on the turf, but it was moved to the main track and run at 1 3/4 miles. Parchment Party drew into the race off the main track only list, which allowed Velazquez to pick up the mount. And it was about as easy a win as you could possibly have in a race like that. And here's what Johnny had to say about Parchment Party.
Yeah, I mean, I got to the paddock of some of the horse that I picked up for that, and get to the paddock and just like, well, this horse is going to come up the pace, and listen to the jockey James Graham telling him that he doesn't like to be rushed at the first part. And I said to him, well, we have plenty of time for him to get into rhythm. And I did like his other horse that he had in the race. And I said, I'm just going to follow your other horse. I'm going to let him fall back and then try to follow your other horse whenever he gets going. But, so we got plenty of time for him to get some sort of rhythm the first part of the race. And I guess somewhere in the middle of the race, I see where he takes me, and I'm just going to try to follow the other horse. By the time we got to the three-quarter pole, I right behind the other Matt's horse, and Junior, I see him, he's moving his hands, trying to get his horse, get in a rhythm, trying to go forwardly, and I'm basically fourth, fifth behind everybody, and I took a pick, and I was like, man, the horse on the lead is a tough one, man. He's been running on the dirt very well. I said, well, and Junior's not going anywhere. I better start moving and get a position that my horse can get a cruising speed. And then when I put him in the clear on the backstretch, he did start getting into a good rhythm. And again, so out there, I'm like, and I'm 7 lengths behind the horse who's on the lead. And I said, okay, let me see if I can get a little closer to him where he doesn't steal the race. And he did. He allowed me to, get a little closer without using him too much. And once I was at a distance that I thought I probably had a good chance to beat him, I kind of relaxed and kind of let him get his own rhythm. Then I got after him, and 3:15 pole, he went by the other horse, which I was very impressed that, that he actually opened up the way he did. And after that was pretty easy. It's one of the things that works out like that. You think, okay, I'm just going to leave this horse where he wants to run, and hopefully I got something for the end. And he went pretty impressive, yeah.
Yeah, it went very impressive.
I even told the guys from Australia, I said, win and you end for Australia. And I told them, if you guys pay for the trip, we are willing to go, though, And they said, well, he's going to run the grass. Well, we can run him right back in the grass. And going 2 miles, I'm pretty sure he probably wins anyway.
Yeah, that was impressive for Parchment Party. It was also extremely impressive for different reasons for She Feels Pretty later on Friday afternoon when she took the Grade 1 New York Stakes. Listen, she has just really come into her own, and this was not an easy win for her. She had to work for it, but she is just so classy, isn't she?
Oh, no, yeah, she's definitely a classy horse, and Sherry's done a great job to keep bringing it back into run and these high levels in these high level races. What a great job she's done with her. And this is a track that we were a little concerned about it, and she's never run in a heavy track like that. She ran in a good track, and she ran pretty decently, but we were worried about it, and we talked about it, and it's like, I'm with you. I say, let's just to give it a shot and see how she does, though, and we did, and she obviously didn't like the track at all, but good horses get you out of there and do what she did, though, all the first part of the race, I was thinking, man, maybe we did the wrong thing by her, though, by the time I got to the backstretch, I put her right behind another horse. Finally, she likes that following a horse in front of her, and she seems to, get on the bridle. Then I start feeling more comfortable that, okay, at least I know she's not liking it, but at least she's taking me somewhere. At 3 pole, I kind of start putting her face in the clear and let it know that she needed to do a little more. By the quarter pole, I was heading with the other horse, and she went away enough to put the other horse away, but she was really having a hard time, with the ground. But she put a really good fight. So that's why you want from horses like her, they're there. No matter if they like the track or not, she's giving you everything she can, and you're very happy with that, So obviously she's a very good horse and makes me look good.
Visiting with Hall of Fame jockey John Velazquez, fresh off of a huge Belmont Stakes racing festival at Saratoga with those 6 stakes victories, 3 Grade 1s, and a Grade 3. Johnny, let's talk about one of the Grade 1s where you came up a little short, and that's the Met Mile. Favorite Fierceness ends up finishing second, beaten 2.5 lengths by Raging Torrent. Tell me about his trip and that performance.
The first one, I was definitely in an uncomfortable position with 3 horses in the race. They're pretty much the same style, though, So I had to come out of there and try to get a position where I thought he'll be, better suited for him. And we did. We got to the position that we wanted, even though we had a kind of also way into that position. But then the other horse seems like I got next to him. And I was watching the jury, and man, he kept waiting for me. I was like, I even got half a lane next to him, and he waited for me. Got to the 3/8 pole, past the 3/8 pole. I got almost head and head with him, and he kept still looking at me and still waiting for me. I was like, man, this horse looks like he still have a lot of horse. So by the quarter pole, I kind of got after my horse, and he just kind of stayed even. He didn't finish the way I thought he would have, and the other one went away from it. So it's one of those races that he runs his race, but the other horse, I think, ran a much better race. Though, he was definitely seemed to be loving the track and waiting for me. So disappointed that he didn't win, but also proud of him that at least he tried and put a good effort.
Johnny, before I let you go, I didn't tell you we were going to discuss this, but I do have to bring it up. Junior Alvarado, Kendrick Carmouche in the headlines after some big wins lately for being fined and suspended and all of those types of things that come along with using their whip too many times in a victory in big races. For Junior, the Kentucky Derby. For Kendrick, the Manhattan. The HISA limit is 6 strikes. They went to 7. As a Hall of Famer, as a jockey trying to win these races, I'm not in favor of a 6-strike limit, but I'm really curious to hear your opinion on this.
It's not. I mean, it's basically, it doesn't matter if it's a grade 1 or anything like that. When sometimes you're in the heat of the moment, and you're riding to win a race, so you forget about it. It's hard to be counting how much you are striking the horse. So it's very difficult, So even in that race and the Manhattan, I thought I went over. It's like, man, I forgot. How many times I struck the horse. I come back and I watch myself, and I was like, wow, 6th time. I thought it probably went over, though. But again, you forget, that, and especially when the horse is responding for it, right? The horse is responding for it, and he's giving you more, so you're going to ask for more, though. It's really hard. It's really hard to do it, But that's the rule that we have right now, and hopefully eventually we can. It would be perfect, like Kendrick said in his article. Perfect if we can get the Kentucky rule, because you can strike the horse with the whip down, and it does not count as a 1 strike when you have the whip up. So you can hit with the whip down as necessary as long as the horse is responding. And then you have your 6 strikes with the whip up. So it'll be a lot easier and less controversial for everybody, and easier for the jockeys. Good for the owners, because you asking to the horse when they're responding, to use it down-handed, and for the bettors as well. So it's a tough situation where we are right now. Yes.
Do you like the idea of having a limit on the number of strikes?
I never did. I think it's more about the perception of it. I think, again, if we could get a Kentucky rule, that would be a lot better. I don't know if we will ever going back that way, but it would be a lot better and less publication to the public that doesn't want any racing, that that we're doing something that we're not supposed to be doing. It makes it looks in my opinion, it makes everybody looks bad, though. And especially when the horses I do respond and nothing happening to the horses. So it's a difficult situation. Yes.
And the whips today are so much kinder, gentler. I've seen them. Ramon Dominguez helped me understand what they were all about back years ago, and I know that they've continued to improve. They're very kind, very gentle, and not like the ones that used to be used back in the day.
Look, I understand if the horse is backing up and not responding for it, meaning the horse is not. It's like those are the guys or the jockey that you got to get after and find them. But the horse is responding, and going forwardly, though, and as long as you don't know they do it, though, So again, even if you have you stick down, I think it should be fine. Those are the things that make racing go. But this is where we end up right now. We are in a rule that is very difficult for everybody to follow.
He's the Hall of Famer, John Velazquez, here on HRRN. Johnny, as always, I appreciate the time, and all the best moving forward, my friend. Let's go win some more Greatest Stakes races and show those young kids you still got what it takes to do it. The greatest comeback since Lazarus.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, pal. We will talk soon. Safe trip every time you get a leg up.
Thank you, brother.
All right, John Velazquez here on HRN going down the road to the Breeders' Cup. When I come back, it's time to take a look at a few historical dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend, and I'll tell you what's ahead in hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolate candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Did you know? VA home loans are a key to home ownership for those who served.
I would tell anybody who is interested in getting a VA loan to just do it.
For me, the best thing about the VA loan was the simplicity of it. I was expecting, government paperwork, it was going to go on forever, and it just wasn't.
Since the down payment for a VA loan is minimal, we were able to purchase this home and then use the money that we were going to use as a down to actually fix up the home.
And the only way we could do that was because the nest egg that we had saved for the down payment, we didn't have to use because we went the VA route.
This is a wonderful benefit that veterans can take advantage of.
In the military, we make a lot of sacrifices. We're away from our family a lot. And with the VA loan, it's a way that it makes it easier for us to get a home.
To learn more about VA home loans, visit va.gov/home loans.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
Hey, this is Mike Penna. Join me every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the show trainers listen to, Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton. From Hall of Famers to up-and-comers, you'll get to know the men and women who make this sport go, up close and personally. Listen on Sirius 162, XM 207, or stream the show live on our website at horseracingradio.net. My guest this week is trainer Dan Ward. And if you miss it or want to listen again, download the podcast at horseracingradio.net or your favorite podcast platform.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
How good is Johnny V? Boy, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with him. You can go back to our website and listen all over again. If you missed any portion of it or you just want to hear what he had to say about his career and about so many of those big wins last weekend, you can do that at horseracingradio.net. We'll have it uploaded for you shortly after the show ends at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you can listen to on every single podcast platform. So wherever you get your podcasts, type in Horse Racing Radio Network, and you can follow along with that interview and with all the shows we bring your way each and every week. Poll question this morning. I'm asking you, which is the most compelling division in racing today, right now? Which one's the most compelling? 64% of you saying it's the 3-year-old male division, understandably so. 21% saying it's the older male division, which has some intrigue to you. Followed by the 3-year-old female division and the older female division. You can continue to weigh in on the question. Cast your vote on our X page at HRRN, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net with your thoughts. Well, you know, the tradition continues. 90 years of running at the Great Race Place. It's closing weekend of the Hollywood Meet. First post at Santa Anita today and tomorrow is 12:30 p.m. Closing weekend wagers include the $2 pick 6 on the last 6 races of the day, and you can bet big with the Coast to Coast pick 5, which offers a player-friendly 15% takeout. Other low takeout bets include the $3 all-turf pick 3, the $3 late pick 3, and the $5 late double. Be sure to play closing day tomorrow, June 15th, with mandatory payouts on all pools, plus a live money handicapping contest both today and tomorrow. You can play at Santa Anita and learn more by going to santaanita.com. Time to take a look at a couple dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend. Yesterday, June 13th, 1999, was the day that we said goodbye to the great Silver Charm, winner of the 1997 Kentucky Derby and Preakness. Of course, he's still alive. He's out at Old Friends, but he retired after finishing 4th in the Stephen Foster Handicap at Churchill. That was June 13th, 1999. Here's a cool one. Today, June 14th, 1880, the first post parade of horses in any American race took place prior to the running of the Belmont Stakes. Horses had previously gone directly from the paddock to the post. And one more, June 14th, 1967, happy anniversary to jockey Craig Perrette, who on this day, all those years ago, at age 16, won his first career race at Arlington Park, and despite starting well into the season, finished the year 3rd among the nation's apprentice riders in races won. Pretty awesome stuff. All right, 2 hours in the books, 1 to go. If your local station is leaving us at this time, continue listening to hour number 3 nationwide on Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is straight ahead, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Tax Implications is coming fast down the center of the track, and Tax Implications and Flavian Pret have hit the lead. Monmouth absolutely flying, but Tax Implications gets there and wins the Eatontown. With a furlong to go, Javier Castellano asking Tuscan Sky to finish, and he finishes full of run. Tuscan Sky in the Spendthrift Farm colors, romping home to win. The Pegasus presented by Naira Bets.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Shoulder to shoulder here with a final furlong left to go, and now Hot Rod Charlie lets it out. Mind Control will not give in. Mind Control comes back. Hot Rod Charlie, Mind Control, head and head, nose and nose. Mind Control, Hot Rod Charlie, photo finish. Photo finish in the Salvatore Mile.
And Jaywalk is still running a good race. Fashion Faux Pas tried to make that run, but couldn't go by her far back to Avelina. And Jaywalk, she is back, it appears. Jaywalk is drawing away down the lane. Jaywalk returns to her 2-year-old form, and an impressive win in the Delaware Oaks, wins it by 7, well in hand.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. 2 hours down, 1 to go here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you with me on this Saturday morning. Looking back on, or talking about what is going to be an exciting weekend, and now that we are past the Triple Crown, we start looking ahead to the road to the Breeders' Cup, and some of the races we're going to see today, no doubt going to play into those races leading up to the Breeders' Cup World Championships, including Haskell Preview Day this afternoon at Monmouth, and looking at the big day at Delaware as well. So plenty of races to talk about. Kevin Kilroy is going to kick off hour 3 with me momentarily with the TwinSpires Triple Play. He'll tell you about 3 races to watch at Churchill Downs this afternoon. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History comes your way at 10:20, and at 10:30, Dale Roman's Tim Wilkin with this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. Plenty to get to. Hour 3 begins right now with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kevin, good morning, brother.
Mike, good morning. How's it going?
Everything is wonderful. What a nice way to kind of ease into the second half of the season, if you will, right?
Yeah, it feels like that. We're kind of there as I'm starting to think about Colonial Downs and Ellis Park and the summer meets that I'll be attending to after Churchill. But it's also kind of sad. I love this Churchill meet, especially the spring one, kicking off with the Derby and all that stuff, and don't want it to end. So gotta think about the other tracks, and then, of course, think about the quick little fall meets that we have here. But, yeah, it seems like it's going to be a good year. I love how these fields are shaping up, all these different divisions. It's going to be interesting to see who sort of sorts to the top, but it's been some great performances so far.
Yeah, and if we can, keep journalism and sovereignty hooking up throughout the year, what a great rivalry that's become.
No joke. That was too much. I mean, I think it'll be interesting when they start facing older runners and the fields kind of are more at their level, because they just seem like they're just heads above their peers right now. If that could change things, if that could maybe help journalism turn the tables on sovereignty, because sovereignty just looked so much the best against journalism in that last race. But it might be different with some bigger fields and some sort of different pace dynamics.
Lots to look forward to over the next several months leading up to the Breeders' Cup in November. You heard from Hall of Famer John Velazquez as we were winding down hour number 2, that extended conversation looking ahead to this year's Breeders' Cup, and at least in terms of AG Bullet, who we piloted to victory in the Jaipur. But if you missed that interview, we're going to post it on our website and our social media pages. You can head back and listen to Johnny V looking back on his huge weekend at Saratoga one weekend ago. Kevin, let's dive into this afternoon's races that you've chosen. You've picked 3 races, all from Churchill Downs, races 5, 7, and 9. We'll remind people that they can go to TwinSpires to bet all of these races, and we encourage you to do that with every race you're going to bet this weekend. Do it with TwinSpires. Race 5 is the Monomoy Girl, purse of $175K, mile and a 16th on the main track. How'd you see that one?
Yeah, this is that first leg of the Derby City 6, which is always fun. And this whole card, it's pretty great top to bottom. And personally as a handicapper, I've got many horses that popped up in my stable alerts that are running on the card. So that's always fun. It's like Christmas morning when you see all those kind of come through and like, okay, they're running for me today. Let's see how it goes. And Immersive obviously is one that I think I would have known, but I did put that one in my stable alert. She's coming back, a Dolphin homebred 4for4, just exceptional, winning that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and for Brad Cox and Manny Franco up for all those. He's in town to ride to ride her in the Monomoy Girl. It's not a deep field. Just have the 6 in here, but it's a strong field with Take Charge Milady. Running away is interesting. Looked good at Horseshoe last time, and As Promised I thought ran pretty good in the Oaks and held form nicely. But I do think Immersive is the one. She's just shown ability to come from off of it, to tend to a little bit of a hotter pace. Has one on a muddy track, one on a fast track. Funny enough, hasn't won at Churchill, so that will be one question mark. Usually those Cox runners will make a start here as a 2-year-old, but she's working strong coming into this. I like the work tab. She's never been flashy. I was talking with Kevin Kirstein, and he was reminding me about she's just never been necessarily a flashy, fast worker. So I like the times that I'm seeing from her. I like her moves, and she's going to be as odds-on as they come, but Immersive. It'll be fun to see her take the Monomoy Girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and considering she's in the care of Brad Cox, you wouldn't expect that the layoff is going to be an issue. Certainly she'll be at her best down the road, but she looks as if she is poised to handle this assignment coming up later today.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're entering, one of your top fillies in a race named after one of your top fillies, you're going to bring the goods, right? It's not just, well, let's get her started here. It's definitely a race that, he wants to win them all for sure, as we all do. But I've learned to really trust Brad in spots like these, and I think Immersive is going to be the one in here. I mean, if you wanted to get away, I think Take Charge Milady, had a little bit of excuse there in the Oaks with some minor hoof problems coming into that one, but she's been working pretty well. But yeah, Immersive for me in the Monomoy Girl.
All right, that's race number 5. The heavy favorite likely or is going to be Immersive, and that will be the top pick of Kevin Kilroy in that race. How about race number 7, $80,000 claiming race, 9 winners of 2 lifetime, 1 mile on the main track, and keep in mind the main track likely to have a little bit of moisture in it today, to say the least. Who do you like in this one?
I mean, this field is funny. This is just a funny field. Claiming 89 winners of 2. You look up and down, you can see a couple from McPeak here. Django, 18, 1, 4, and 2, his lifetime record, as well as Reelman Violin, 16, 1, 5, and 3. These really strong runners that just don't love to win. Footprint, another one, was with McPeak before, now with Al Stahl. Next Level. It's that same sort of story. So I want to go against those, Mike. I like to go against those types of horses that run big figures, take a good amount of money, but don't get the win. I think I was talking and singing the praises of the one horse in here on the show ahead of May 9th, McElroy, coming out of Breed-Versailles, and this guy did not pick up his feet at all. I mean, a little bit of a tough break, crowded, and kind of got maybe overcorrected there by Machado, but he was just in the back throughout, and that didn't make any difference. And, Rudy was saying he wanted to try the turf. He wasn't sure if he should enter. He was actually had this one entered in a turf race and a dirt race, and he chose the turf. And he said after, I chose the wrong surface. McElroy has always been impressive in his runs at Turfway, working with Mulligan. Good work on the 4th with Liam in the dust. Blinkers go on. Luis Saez goes up. I think this is one that we can take to the bank. My only pause on McElroy is the draw there. We've got the rail that has not been the spot to be going this 1-turn mile at Churchill. They kind of enter that turn at a little bit of an angle. You can get caught in a tough spot. You might have to use your horse a little bit more than you want to early. But I do think McElroy can overcome that, and hopefully that price is okay, because these other runners are going to take some money. But 5-2, would love to get that on the one.
All right, and how about the 9th race? This is the final leg of the TwinSpires Triple Play that you've chosen for this Saturday morning. Mile and a 16th, optional claiming allowance race, purse of $134,000. A lot of ways to go in this race. I think it's a pretty well-matched field. How about you?
Yeah, I like this group. I mean, King Russell, he keeps on sort of offering good efforts. Did get that win a couple back. Was on a wet track last time. Single Dot Yachts put some big runs together. Di Vernon looked fantastic last time. But number 6, Not This Boy. Doug Cowens is Not This Time, 4-year-old. He just faced a very good one last time. He ran his heart off at that big layoff. Moonlight wasn't very good for him. Had Jose Ortiz up, was down at Fairgrounds, coming into his own, and Chris Block had him going really well. But I thought Not This Boy, who might have needed that race, just impressed me to no end. I think he's a standout in here, and I'm gonna single this one. I think I've got 2 singles going with my Derby City 6 with Immersive and Not This Boy, and they'll be chalky for sure. But I'm excited to see Not This Boy get it done. I think he just stands out against this group, has tactical options, and of course gets Brian Hernandez Jr. up. So that's nothing too wrong with that. A little more distance, I think, should be good for him.
Kevin, when you single horses that are short prices like Immersive and Not This Boy in a multi-race wager, does that mean you have to pick a few long shots in some of those other races?
It doesn't. It actually doesn't. It depends on your opinions, right? If you look at the other races and you're like, you know what, I think I can lock this down with 2 or 3 over here. They are going to be short prices, but that's how you are at the other legs besides your chalk single. And you can play, an $8 ticket, a $6 ticket, sort of work your tickets in multiple ways and just sort of add up to something reasonable, but press it multiple times. So if it does come through with your strong opinions, that you'll get paid multiple times. I mean, even when you see chalk come through, you can still get your just deserved as long as you don't go deep, as long as you don't use other horses with the chalk, that sort of situation. So I do like to look to other legs and make sure there's value there, but you can still put a ticket together. Just make sure you're not putting too much of your capital in, and just getting your money back, and not a good. What do you want to think in terms of? You want to think in terms of, could I have made more money in another pool? That's what you want to think of. Like if I really love Not This Boy, and I love a long shot in the Chorleywood in the last there. then maybe you want to just play that double. Maybe you think Lambeth can get it done for Joe Sharp, Highway Robber. If they give 15-1, you could just put all your multi-race wager money into that double. So it's kind of hard. You want to think through it, but you want to know your opinions are, and don't want to go too deep and not get the proper multiple of what you put into the wager. That's one of those balancing acts you gotta strike.
Interesting. So the 3 races that Kevin Kilroy has chosen for you this morning: race number 5 at Churchill, he'll take number 2 Immersive 4-5 on the morning line. Race number 7, he'll go with number 1 McElroy at 5-2, and in race number 9, he'll take number 6 Not This Boy 8-5. And he just walked through some strategy ideas if you're playing that Derby City 6, which is an interesting wager on this Saturday afternoon program. Kevin, what else is happening at TwinSpires this weekend?
Yeah, we've got the money back opportunity on Saturday. So if your horse runs second or third and there's nothing in the field, then you put a win bet on that one. You get up to $10 back. You also got triple rewards points going on. So a couple of different offers that you can take advantage of. Make sure and opt in. Get involved with that before you start sending your bets in, because it can be a nice little way to get some extra points, extra cash in your account. And then on Sundays we've got this hit it and split it for the pick threes, where it's a $3,000 sitting there waiting for anybody who can get 3 pick threes home on a card. So it's a fun way to take a swing of those multi-race wagers that aren't pick 5s, aren't pick 6s. Can be a little bit easier to lock in and lock down. And you get 3 of them. You split 3,000 with whoever else does. So those will be Sundays through the rest of the meet.
All right, there you have it. Kevin Kilroy with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kevin, appreciate it, my friend. Good luck at the windows, and let's go make some money.
Thanks, Mike. You too.
All right, you got it. Coming up next, Kurt Becker will take you on his Stroll Through Racing History presented by Keeneland. And still to come, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. Don't forget, too, the answer to the impossible trivia question comes your way right around 10:55 Eastern before we wrap things up. Here's the question. Who wrote the article entitled "The Kentucky Derby is Decadent and Depraved," set during the 1970 Kentucky Derby? That's a tough one there. If you can get that one, kudos to you. I will unveil the answer coming up toward the end of the program. Stay with me for that, and stay with me for Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History coming your way next on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Horse racing is here for our 88th season of live thoroughbred racing at Delaware Park Casino. Join us for our first ever Delaware Derby Day on Saturday, June 14th. Enjoy live racing, food trucks, face painting, and t-shirt and hat giveaways while supplies last. And make plans to play in the Delaware Park Casino $500 major handicapping contest on Saturday, July 5th. Compete for cash prizes and a chance of 2 seats at the 2026 National Horse Players Championship. Join us at Delaware Park.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. Some said he was a Kentucky bred. Others said he was foaled in Illinois. But no one really seemed to care until the spring of his 3-year-old year. His name was Dust Commander. Foaled on February 8, 1967, Dust Commander was a chestnut colt by Bold Commander out of Dust Storm by Windy City. His sire was a minor stakes winner and track record setter, while his dam had gone 0 for 28 in her career while racing and claiming events. Consigned by Paul Little, Jess Curry, and Tilford Wilson to the Keeneland Fall Yearling Sales in 1968, Dust Commander sold for $6,500 to Robert Lehman. A native of Rising Sun, Ohio, Lehman had become a successful businessman whose holdings included a construction firm as well as banking and real estate investments. Lehman raced in the name of Golden Chance Farm, which included a spread in Ocala, Florida, as well as a farm in Paris, Kentucky. As for Dust Commander, described as a pint-sized little chestnut horse, Lehman and his wife chose 31-year-old Don Combs to be his trainer. A native of Lexington, Kentucky, Combs had grown up with draft horses and road horses on farms owned by his parents and his grandmother. After graduating from Lafayette High School in Lexington, he studied political science at the University of Kentucky, but what he really wanted was a job in the horse business. Combs worked in the produce department at a grocery store and managed an apartment complex, all to make ends meet while rubbing horses at Keeneland and pursuing his dream of becoming a trainer. His dream became reality when he opened a public stable in 1968, and the following year, the Lehmans brought Dust Commander to his barn. Dust Commander notched 4 wins as a juvenile, including the City of Miami Beach handicap during the last week of December. But he bruised a foot in his next outing, and he lost a month of training early in his 3-year-old season. Whatever his potential might have been at one time, it seemed Dust Commander had lost a step when he returned to the races. For example, he faded at the top of the stretch in the Fountain of Youth Stakes to finish 11th, with jockey Bill Hardtack saying the colt seemed dizzy and off balance in the final furlong. Shipping to Kentucky and going to the post in a 6-furlong allowance on the opening day of Keeneland's spring meeting, Dust Commander got a new jockey in Mike Manganello. But after a 7th place finish, hardly anyone was impressed with the performance. Anyone, that is, except the trainer and jockey. Combs and Manganello both agreed that Dust Commander's run that day had actually been quite impressive. He had gotten stopped twice in the stretch, so he had a legitimate excuse for finishing off the board. And he was closing at the end, giving every indication that he wanted a longer distance of ground. 4 days later, Dust Commander went right back to the post at Keeneland, this time in a 2-turn allowance race. And this time, he won. Still, the public had its doubts, and Dust Commander was dismissed at odds of 35-1 when he ran back at Keeneland on April 23rd in the Bluegrass Stakes. With Manganello once again in the irons, Dust Commander pulled a shocker, winning the Bluegrass and rewarding his backers with a $72 payoff. Up next, it was the 96th running of the Kentucky Derby. The date was May 2nd, 1970, and Dust Commander was 15-1 as he and Manganello loaded into the starting gate. Chick Anderson gives us the call.
Through the stretch, Silent Screen has taken over the lead now. That is Kornoff the Cobb second. Along the inside, Dust Commander. They come for the finish. Dust Commander is on the rail. He has the lead. My Dad George, a late move. Silent Screen. Here on the outside is High Echelon. They're coming on the way, and look at Dust Commander open up as they hit the finish. Dust Commander a big winner. Then My Dad George second. High Echelon third, and Nastra is fourth. Silent Screen is fifth. And boy, what a big win that was. The same sort of a win that you had in the Bluegrass Stakes.
Dust Commander not only had won the Kentucky Derby, but also had posted the largest margin of victory in the race since 1946. The official margin was 5 lengths. The Churchill Downs program that day listed Dust Commander as a Kentucky bred, but that had come under dispute ever since his win in the Bluegrass. Brothers Jim and Tom Poland of Metropolis, Illinois, had produced documentation that they owned the dam at the time Dust Commander was born, and they even had documents from the Illinois Racing Board to prove it. A few days after the Derby, the Jockey Club agreed and officially changed Dust Commander's registration papers to reflect the fact he was indeed bred by the Poland brothers and that he had been foaled in the Prairie State. Dust Commander would run 9th in the Preakness Stakes before a ligament injury in his left foreleg sidelined him throughout the month of June. He would return to the races to post third-place finishes in both the Monmouth Invitational and the Clark Handicap before being retired to Golden Chance Farm in Kentucky for stallion duty. Dust Commander sired Preakness winner Master Derby in his first crop before being sent to Japan to continue his stallion career. He would return to the U.S. in 1979 and spend the remainder of his career in Kentucky, where he died in 1991 at the age of 24. Following burial in an unmarked grave, his remains were exhumed in 2013 and reinterred on the grounds of the Kentucky Derby Museum. As Verna Lehman noted at the time, this is where he won the race. This is where he belongs. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Thanks, Kurt, for that story. And remember, all of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments are available via podcast on our website. And don't miss our Weekend Stakes preview show with Bobby Newman and Bob Nastanovich, which is also available right now at horseracingradio.net. I Ask the Answer with Dale and Tim coming up next. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
His sire is one of the most exciting young stallions in the world. His dam has become one of the most important brood mares in the industry. And on the first Saturday in May, his genetic brilliance shined brightest on racing's biggest stage.
They come into the final 16, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mage, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. This is I Ask the Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
And She Feels Pretty takes the lead inside the final eighth of a mile. Beach Bomb's going to make her work for it. She Feels Pretty just in front of a very stubborn Beach Bomb. She Feels Pretty, yet another grade 1 for this magnificent daughter of Caraconte. Darth Vader emerges with the lead in mid-stretch and opens up under John Velazquez. It will be Darth Vader to win the Ogden Phipps presented by Ford. AG Bullet on the outside of Coppola. On the inside, My Boy Prince is in third and trying to get to this leader. And it's AG Bullet running powerfully to the wire. AG Bullet dominates the Jaipur.
Frank Miramati with the call of a trio of Grade 1 wins for Hall of Famer John Velazquez highlighted what was a magical weekend for him. 6 stakes victories during the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. Is it time to recognize Johnny V as the greatest of all time? Plus, with plenty of big-name upsets at Saratoga last weekend, which were most surprising and concerning for Dale and Tim? And in light of the developing rivalry between sovereignty and journalism, we look back on some of racing's greatest showdowns. All of that and much, much more is coming up on this week's edition of I Ask the Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf rider Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. located in the heart of horse country. Let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, guys, as we wrap up the Triple Crown season and start to look ahead to the road to the Breeders' Cup, we'll kick it off with this topic. Sovereignty and journalism certainly lived up to the hype and delivered a thrilling renewal of the Belmont last Saturday. However, there were plenty of big-name upsets over the weekend, like Good Cheer, White Abarrio, Fierceness, Think Big, and Spirit of St. Louis, all going down in defeat. Which of those was most surprising? And do we draw a line through those efforts, or is there cause for concern? Tim Wilkin.
Well, Saratoga lived up to his name. Was the graveyard of favorites. There were a lot of them that went down. The one that was the most surprising to me was Good Cheer. I mean, she had won her first 7 starts, and then she'd beaten a lot of these in the Kentucky Oaks, including LaCara, who won in the Kentucky Oaks. She beat I think by 13 lengths, and that was on a wet fast track. This was a sloppy track. You go back to Good Cheer's career, the only other time she was on a sloppy track, she won by 17 lengths. But sloppy tracks are different, and that was at Churchill. Sloppy tracks are different tracks. She obviously didn't like it that day. I'm going to draw a line through that one. I mean, she's clearly the best 3-year-old filly in the country, I think, and I think she'll prove it the next time she goes out. That's the one that sticks out to me. I don't know if Dale has a different opinion or not.
That's the biggest upset, but anytime a favorite gets beaten Saratoga, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So, like you said, it lived up to its name. Good Cheer is the biggest upset, but I'm like you, I draw a line through that one. Fierceness, I would worry about a little bit more, about him coming back and dominating like we expect him to. But yeah, Good Cheer getting beat, short price. He looked like she just laid over the field. Looked like she could have had an off day and still won. And just didn't show up. So hopefully you can just draw a line through that. She bounces back. But this would be the horse I would be the most worried about going forward.
I mean, I know that Fierceness, when Todd said that he banged his head at the start on the stall, and he was leaving from the one on the Wilson chute, which he wasn't, tickled about. Again, yeah. The older horses, sometimes they don't fire. And
Tim, John Velazquez was with me earlier in the program, and he walked through Fierceness's trip, and he talked about how he was very concerned about the way the pace could unfold. He thought there were 3 other horses in there, or 2 other horses, including his, that all had a very similar running style, wanted to be in the same position. But if Fierceness wants to be the horse that everybody expects him to be, he's got to be able to overcome those type of scenarios, doesn't he?
There's no doubt. I mean, it's he did that towards the end of last year. The Travers and he made a bang up in the Breeders' Cup Classic when he was second, and he set a track record, I believe, first race out this year. Big things are expected of him. Again, they're not machines. I still expect he's going to be a major player in the older horse division this year.
Do we draw a line through White Abarrio's effort, or is there cause for concern with White Abarrio?
I think White Abarrio he's got to go back to Florida. He runs big in Florida. All his big that's where he does most of his success.
He did pretty good in the Breeders' Cup Classic outside of Florida.
And he did in the Whitney too, but those are the only 2 times.
He's been in and out his whole career. And
yeah.
He'll bounce back. But Fierceness, I say the true superstars of our sport overcome everything. Track surface, they make their own trips, and they don't get beat. But, I mean, he's a great horse, but I don't believe he's a true superstar. We wanted to try to make him.
Brad Cox is bringing Immersive back, the champion filly from last year, 2-year-old filly. She comes back later today at Churchill Downs. Are we still looking at Good Cheer as the leader of that 3-year-old filly division, or now that Immersive is back, does Good Cheer kind of take a back seat again?
Well, I think Immersive has to show something.
Yeah, it's still Good Cheer's division. I mean, we're not going to throw her to the sidelines just for one bad race. First one of her life. if she bounces back and wins next time out, she's still a leader in the clubhouse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Brad Cox with a pair of leading ladies in that division. They are really, really good. All right, guys, topic number 2 comes from our friend Tom in St. Louis, who emails the show and wants to know, when races are rescheduled from Saturday to Sunday, as was the case for the Jaipur and the Manhattan last weekend, what steps does a trainer need to take with their horses in order to make sure that they're adjusted and ready to roll the next day? Dale, why don't you take this one? What steps does a trainer need to do? You had it with Coppola.
Yeah, there's not a lot we can do, but we're all in the same boat. And they did the right thing. Naira made the right move. You couldn't have run on that grass, and you'd had to take it off. And you lose your Grade 1 status when you come off of the turf. It's up to the grade stakes committee to decide if you deserve a grade or not. Those races would have scratched down to nothing. They're 2 important races. They were lucky that they had the Sunday carded and they could make the move, and it all worked out. I think the track was a lot better and the horses all ran well over it. So I think they did the right thing, but there's not a lot you can do. One thing about it is, in today's world, you don't medicate your horses anymore. You don't give them anti-inflammatories and different things to try to get them ready for the race. So there wasn't any. We didn't lose any of that, and they let us know early enough. We didn't treat the horses with Lasix, so they didn't get Lasix 2 days, or we can't run Lasix in grade 6. So there's really medication rules being different. There's not much different could have done. You might have done a little something more if they let us know earlier, training-wise. Some people don't go to the racetrack on race day, including me. So I might have trained that day, but that would have been about the only thing different.
Tim, let me come to you for this next part of Tom's question. He wants to know about the jockeys and their agents. And, for example, Flavien Prat decided to honor his commitments at Churchill Downs on Sunday rather than staying to ride those other stakes races at Saratoga. What are some of the things that go into those decisions?
Well, it's the jockey. He's got to decide where he's going to go and who he's riding for, what are the races. That was the Matt Wynn day down at Churchill, correct? And
yeah,
these jockeys and their agents do what they think is going to be right for them. You can't be in 2 places at one time. And when they moved the races off the grass from Saturday to Sunday, he was going to honor his commitments to go on Sunday. That's just the way it worked out for him. I don't think you can blame him. You can't. He was going to honor the commitments that he made for Sunday. So, worked out for John Velazquez pretty good.
They can actually be fined or penalized for not living up to their commitments. So, legally by the rules, he had to be there. I'm sure there are ways around it, but he could have been fined if he didn't show up.
Well, how about the commitment that he made to ride in, say, the Jaipur and the Manhattan?
It wasn't his doing that they moved the races.
Mm.
So, he couldn't be penalized for that.
And going back to why they did, they had I know there were a lot of horse players that were up in arms when they canceled those races. And the handle took a hit, but they had almost 2.5 inches of rain that day, and they made the call right around noontime. It's a safety issue, and Naira is very cognizant of that. Every track is cognizant of that. And, you want the athletes, both 4-legged and 2-legged, to be safe at all times, and that wouldn't have been a safe deal to run on that track. I know it maybe had dried out a little bit by the time of those post times. What the Jaipur was supposed to be at 4 and the Manhattan a little after 6. But you can't. You'd be rolling the dice if you would have kept them on.
They didn't want to do it. They had to do it, and it was the right move.
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate the question, Tom. If you have a question for Dale and Tim, you know what to do. Email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. We'll try to get your question worked into the show going forward, or you can post it on our social media pages at HRRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Guys, it is that time of the show where we say hello to our good friend Nick Zito, and you get to tell me if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
Right or wrong, Nikki? Let's find out. How about this one, guys? At age 53, Hall of Fame jockey John Velazquez rode circles around his younger competitors during the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, winning 6 stakes races, including 3 Grade 1s and a Grade 3, for a total of 9 wins. With all due respect to all of the other legendary jockeys we've seen over the years, come on, Johnny V is the greatest of all time. Is that right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale, what do you think?
No argument from me. So spent a little time with Johnny Friday night. We had a good time. We were reminiscing about a lot of stuff, and he said not only a great jockey, he's a great person. Him and Leona we were all at the party together. We had a good time, and he's not going to get an argument from me. He's the greatest of all time.
This is one of these questions where it's impossible to say right or wrong. It just is. And I know you guys are going to say you got to take a stand, but I'm not going to take a stand on this because Johnny Velazquez is one of the all-time greats. There's absolutely no question about that. He's the all-time leader in earnings. 12th, I think he's 12th in all-time wins. But, there's other jockeys that have done an awful lot of good things, too. I mean, you go back to the likes of an Eddie Arcaro, who won 17 classic races in the Triple Crown. He's the only jockey to win 2 Triple Crowns. I mean, you look at Mike Smith. He's got 20. He leads the clubhouse in Breeders' Cup wins with like 27. Johnny's second.
21.
21. And the list just goes on and on. Angel Cordero, Pat Day, Chris McCarron, Jerry Bailey. To say that one is better than the other, I mean, it's like saying who's the greatest baseball player of all time. You'd get arguments from 50 different players, camps. John Velazquez is certainly in the higher echelon. He's in the top 5. But it's hard for me to pinpoint anyone as the number one. Lafitte Pincayde, another one. But you can't spit on his accomplishments. He's done an awful lot, and he looks like he's still going strong as ever.
Yeah, 53 years young, Timmy. How awesome was what we saw him do last weekend?
Oh, there's no question what he did on the biggest stage, and I believe he's holds the record for all-time graded stakes wins now. He's had that for a while. I mean,
he might have passed Mike this weekend for Grade 1s. We were trying to figure that out Friday night. Was he one behind or one ahead? He was right there with him.
Yeah, it's the fact that he's doing it at his age, and Mike Smith turning 60 this year. The fact that John Velazquez is still able to do what he does, and he's so it's never been about the records for him. That never has been. So he's going to go on, and he looks like he's still in his 30s the way he's riding.
Anybody wants to say he's the greatest rider of all time, nobody has much argument against it.
No.
Yeah, and Tim, and you're right. It's very difficult to compare all of these because there are so many great riders. But considering what he did last weekend, and we've seen great performances from will come senior, more experienced riders in the past, but this guy can really he's been one of the best for a very, very long time. When he joined me earlier in the show, I played a race call of DeHaas winning the Breeders' Cup Mile in 1998. That was the first of Johnny's 21 Breeders' Cup wins, and it was also the call where Tom Durkin said it was the greatest comeback since Lazarus. And Johnny, when he started the interview with me, he started laughing, and he said, as I was listening to that, I'm thinking, I just made the greatest comeback since Lazarus last weekend. He certainly did. He's outstanding.
Pretty good.
Congrats to Johnny V. Maybe one of the best, maybe the greatest of all time. All right, we'll bring Nick Zito back for that segment next weekend, but we have a couple more topics to get to before our final point of the week. And, guys, this one involves sovereignty and journalism, who appear to be horse racing's next big rivals. So I kind of thought it would be fun this morning to look back on some of the sport's most memorable duels. So, Timmy, if you can think about some other rivalries. For me, Sunday Silence Easy Goer pops into my head immediately, but what are some of the other memorable rivalries we've seen over the years?
I think Affirmed Alydar has to be right up there. They met 10 times in their careers, with Affirmed winning 7 of them. I mean, those their Triple Crown battle. Affirmed, when he won in '78, he won the Derby by a length and a half, the Preakness by a neck, the Haddon, the Belmont, and then when they ran in the Travers, Affirmed won but got DQ'd, and Alydar won. That was one of the fiercest rivalries that I can remember, and it's and like you mentioned, Easy Go and Sunday Silence. I mean, they raced each other 4 times, and Silence won 3 of them, but Easy Goer romped in the Belmont by 8.5 lengths. So, those are journalism and sovereignty still have a ways to go to get up to that level, but they might be on their way. Especially if they meet a couple more times this year.
Nothing like Affirmed Alydar. You're dead on there, Tim. That's the greatest rivalry in our sport's ever seen, in my opinion. A lot of people say if Alydar had ever switched leads, the records would have been reversed. And they were even rivals when they went to stud, and Alydar was by far the best of the 2 there.
Yeah. I remember I don't know if some people think you probably wouldn't think of it as a rivalry, but Victory Gallop and Real Quiet in the Triple Crown in '98. That was a fun rivalry for 5 weeks. Real Quiet winning the Derby and the Preakness, and Victory Gallop coming back to nip him by a nose at the end in the Belmont. That was a fun rivalry for that time. And, just having rivalries in the sport, it just piques the interest not only of racing fans, but fans outside of racing. I think there were people that tuned in to see the Belmont because they wanted to see journalism and sovereignty race against each other. And it was only the second time they did it, but it was really hyped. And if they were able to both make it back to the Travers, it'll be hyped again. And then, who knows, maybe out in California for the Breeders' Cup Classic at Del Mar. And that's something that really spices up the sport. And it's always great to see people that don't follow it necessarily get on board for races like these.
How much fun would it be to see them come back in the Jim Dandy and Travers and maybe split those 2 and go into the older horse race division after that? And could be a big boost for racing if those 2 match head-to-head a couple more times.
Oh, absolutely.
How about Songbird and Beholder?
Yeah.
They locked horns a couple of times. I don't know if Songbird ever got the better of her, did she?
I don't.
I want to say Beholder beat her every time.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know how many times they ran each other, but I know they had one really great race.
Yeah. Yeah, I could be wrong. Maybe Songbird. I'll look it up.
Let Tim look it up. He's the king of research.
I'd have to get overtime for this one, though. It wasn't on the list.
Done. Yeah, we need to find out if I want to say Beholder beat her every time, but I could be wrong on that one. But some great rivalries, and we'll hope, as Dale said, that sovereignty and journalism keep running against each other and continue to stay healthy and keep this thing rolling all the way through the 2025 racing season. One more topic, guys, and this one involves Royal Ascot, which begins their 2025 meet on Tuesday. But for the first time in more than a decade, the meet is not going to feature a horse trained by Wesley Ward. Ward had planned to go following some of the latest workouts of his contenders, he decided to sit this one out. There will be other American entrants at Royal Ascot, trained by George Weaver and Patrick Biancone, but Ward and his horses were always the star attraction for U.S. racing fans. So, Tim, I'll ask you, will American racing fans pay attention to Royal Ascot next week the way they would if Wesley had horses running?
Absolutely, they will. It's it's a pageantry, and there's people that, again, don't follow horse racing. They'll tune into this because they want to see the royal procession every day. They want to see King Charles and his whole crew in their top hats and coming down in their course-drawn carriages. The pomp and circumstances. A lot of people really like to watch that. And as far as the racing, Wesley Ward isn't going to be there, but there's another horse that's going to be there that should pique the interest of U.S. fans. Carl Spackler, who was with Chad Brown, has been sold, and he's now being trained by an Australian named Kieran Mahir, and he's going to run in the Queen Anne. And everyone knows, and Carl Spackler got a following over here because of his name, because of the Caddyshack reference. And now that he's going to run for an Australian in England, one of England's biggest races, I think people want to tune into that. And the fact that NBC still televises it, and I think FanDuel has it too, there was over 1 million viewers they had the first 3 days when NBC had it last year. People will watch it because it's really good racing. And, the fact that there are still some U.S. horses sprinkled in there, gives them a rooting interest. But I think people really like to watch the best that England has to offer.
I never pay a lot of attention to European racing at all. I'll be watching American racing that day.
No top hat and tails for Dale Romans that day.
I don't think they'd have a hat big enough.
Have you ever had a top hat on?
Never had a top hat on, but they get one for Michael DeCock, so they'd probably be able to get one for me. He's got a pretty big head.
Well, who knows? One day you might have a horse that goes over there.
Never say never.
Tell Terry Finley to get busy, Dale.
That's right. Yeah, he would like it. He'd cover his bald head with a top hat.
I think he could pull that look off. I think you could pull it off too, Dale.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never worn a lot of hats.
I know I wouldn't look good in a top hat. I know that. I look like an Undertaker.
It was a lot of fun over there, and he was in awe of meeting the Queen when he went. And I think he did it more than Americans watching that. I think that Europeans started seeing a lot of watching the American horses there. It was a lot of fun for them.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the point of the show where we get to wrap things up, guys, and we will do it with our final point of the week. So, Tim Wilkin, why don't you kick it off? What is your final point of the week on this Saturday morning?
Well, yesterday on Friday, they made the announcement, which everyone figured was going to happen anyway, that the Belmont Stakes will indeed be back at Saratoga for one more year while Belmont goes through the final stages of their massive reconstruction. It's been a success the first 2 years having it at Saratoga, and it'll be the last time next year for the Belmont Stakes. So, people can start getting geared up for that already.
Yeah, I just want to say that I was there for five days and love Saratoga. What a great job I think Naira did. I want to tip my hat to him. It was a lot of fun. I spent most of my time as a racing fan over that 5-day period on vacation. It was a great week. Good job.
Dale, I just pulled up the lifetime past performances for Songbird, and I had it in my head that she and Beholder had met twice on the racetrack, only once, and that came in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. In 2016, and Beholder got the better of her in that great showdown by a nose. That, maybe not a rivalry, but that was one of the great races we've ever seen.
One of the great races of all time, but one race does not a rivalry make.
That's right.
No, it does not. Guys, appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. Dale, good luck. Tim, good luck at the windows.
Thanks, fellas. See you next week.
All right, if you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim discuss, email your topic to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net, or post it on our social media pages, and we will get those questions and topics worked into the future shows. I Ask the Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program, and the College of Business. I'm back with more and the answer to this week's impossible trivia question coming up next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
I'm 54, so basically, it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save, even in your 50s, can really make a difference.
Well, right now, saving seems hard to wrap my head around. Plus, with the way this year's been going...
Hey, listen, it's okay. You still got this. Just go to aceyourretirement.org. It's an online tool from AARP that can help you get your retirement savings on track no matter your age. It's free and only takes about 3 minutes.
I like 3 minutes.
Yeah, at aceyourretirement.org, you'll chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer a few questions and you'll get a personalized plan and tips to help boost your retirement savings. Tips that are easy to understand and tailored to your lifestyle.
I like that too.
Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Just head to aceyourretirement.org and make your plan to start saving for retirement.
Thanks.
That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters need them. We look out for the helpers because they look out for us. Thank you, first responders! Thank you, first responders!
Learn how you can help first responders by texting BRAVE to 24365.
Standing at the edge of a rocky shore, you breathe in the cool, salty air, watching the sun disappear on the horizon. Across the globe, someone begins their day along a sandy beach, listening to the rhythm of the crashing waves. You each envision a world beneath the water, vibrant life in every imaginable form. Now, imagine it's all gone. What was once a place of wonder and beauty is now a dull, lifeless wasteland. Food, jobs, medicine, all gifts from the ocean, all gone. Time is running out to protect our oceans, and without our love, everything the oceans provide can and will disappear. It's our choice. Love it or lose it. Help protect our oceans. Visit World Wildlife Fund at wwf.org/love.
Check out the all-new horseracingradio.net. All the same great horse racing radio content in a new, easy-to-use design. Listen to all of our shows streaming live or access the replays anytime. See our schedule, sign up for our newsletter, download our latest podcasts, and so much more. It's all on our website at horseracingradio.net. That's horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Songbird and Beholder, and they're into the stretch, and here we go. Songbird set down, Beholder is alongside. Forever Unbridled is 2.5 lengths behind them. Furlong to run. Songbird, Beholder, they are nose to nose. This race living up to its expected power as they come to the wire. They're nose to the park. It's Beholder. I think she got her head down on the wire. Songbird, dogging, gambling all the way. The two of them right together. And then came Forever Unbridled. The final time was 1 minute 49.20 seconds. I believe Beholder did it.
Larry Colmus with the call of the 2016 Breeders' Cup Distaff. Beholder, Songbird, the only meeting during their storied careers, and Beholder getting the better of her rival that day by a nose in one of the great stretch battles, one of the great races we have ever seen. That was fantastic. I'll never forget being there at Santa Anita that day, and the roar from the crowd as Beholder and Songbird battled through the stretch. But again, Beholder getting the better of Songbird on that occasion. If you want to hear more about Songbird, you can head back to our website, by the way. Check out this week's Trainer Talk show with Dan Ward. Dan spent a lot of time working with Jerry Hollendorfer, and he was around Songbird quite a bit, told some great stories during that 1-hour conversation on Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton. Check out the podcast now on our website and on your favorite podcast platform. Going to have the answer coming up to our impossible trivia question, but first a reminder that Sovereignty rules the Kentucky Derby on the June cover of Blood Horse, and that is out now. As we know, he came back to take the Belmont, too, last weekend. Also featuring Good Cheer's part in the amazing run for Godolphin, WinStar's 25-year milestone, a celebration of Ruffian's final career victory, and a look at broodmare sires by earnings, and much, much more. You can become a subscriber to the Blood Horse for as little as $59 or purchase a single issue at bloodhorse.com. Yeah, not quite a rivalry with Beholder and Songbird because they only met once, and Dale summed it up perfectly. One race does not a rivalry make. But that was a good one, wasn't it? Love looking back on those classic races that we've seen here over the years. Time now to check in with our producer, Lee Delapina. He has the answer to this week's impossible trivia question. Lee?
Thank you, Mike. What journalist wrote the article, "The Kentucky Derby is Decadent and Depraved"? Obviously, that was the legendary Gonzo journalist and Louisville native, Hunter S. Thompson.
There you go. Did you get it? No, I hope you did. Congratulations if you got that one right. We'll be back next week with another impossible trivia question here on the Equine Forum. My thanks to all the guests who have taken time to make this show possible, including Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin in the previous segment. They are joining me every single week here on the Equine Forum for I Ask, They Answer. Kurt Becker with his Stroll Through Racing History. Kevin Kilroy with that TwinSpires triple play. 3 races to bet with TwinSpires this afternoon. John Velazquez, the Hall of Famer. My extended conversation with him came your way in the second hour of the show. And if you missed it, you can go back to our website, listen to the entire almost 25-minute conversation. Johnny looked back on his 6 stakes victories last weekend. We actually got to, I think, 4 of them. The 3 grade 1s. We talked about the grade 3, which came off the turf. And he was brilliant in walking you through each of those wins. And then he even spent some time talking about fierceness and his defeat in the Met Mile as the favorite that day. And you kind of get the sense that fierceness will be just fine, and he's going to live to fight another day. But Johnny took time to walk through all of those with me. And again, you can go to our website to listen to that conversation. And my thanks to the Hall of Famer for taking time. I do think that if you're going to talk about the greatest riders of all time, John Velazquez is in the conversation. And I think that Johnny is probably the greatest of all time. When you look at the consistency that he has shown throughout his entire career, the way he still gets it done, and I know you say the same thing about Mike Smith, and Mike Smith is in that conversation. And as Tim said, it's like saying who's the best baseball player of all time? Who's the best hitter of all time? There have been some great ones. And to compare athletes of different eras is always extremely different. Who's difficult? Who's the best quarterback of all time? Well, the game's changed so much now. So do we look at a guy like, I don't know, Fran Tarkenton, Joe Namath, the way we look at guys of the modern era? I think with jockeys, we can still do that. Even though the rules have changed a little bit with riding races, I think you can make some very fair comparisons. But they'll all tell you, all the great ones will tell you, that it's the horse that's under them that makes them so good. Good mounts. If you're well mounted, you're going to win a lot of races and a lot of big races. All right, my thanks to our producers in our Lexington studio, Lee Delapina and Kim Price, and to Chauncey for handling all of our social media this morning. And my thanks to all of you for tuning in to the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. I'm Mike Penna. We'll talk to you next week here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Go Steelers.